Bam.
I'm
We're
always
live.
always looking down.
Good morning, guys. I screwed up. I thought this was going to be a 7:30 a.m. podcast, and it is a 7:30 a.m. podcast with Justin Cotler of Underdogs Athletics. Underdogs Athletics.
That sounds right.
But before we start, we got Nicky Rodriguez for 30 minutes, which is pretty awesome. He should be on here any minute. And we have Jason Khalipa also. I wonder if maybe the link I sent them doesn't work. It's not. It's very unlike Jason to be late. Let me see. I'll invite again. Copy to. Bam.
I feel like I can't drink out of my small paper cups anymore.
Now is a good time to come. Now is a good time to come on. The show started. You guys know who Khalipa is, and you guys know who Nicky Rodriguez is. Nicky Rodriguez has been on the show twice before. He's the member of the B team. Oh, we have a different setting for Nicky.
There he is.
Same wardrobe, different setting.
Hey.
There we go. There's Jason.
Oh boy.
What's up, Nicky? Is your Jason? Good morning, Nicky. Is your bathroom being used? Is someone taking a shit? Why have you changed locations, buddy?
No, nobody's home, so I figured I'd bring you guys to the kitchen. You know,
Just
Hey,
are you naked under there?
I'm always naked.
Hey, in all honesty, how often throughout the duration of the day do you wear a shirt, you think?
When it's warm out, not much. Dude, when I was in Puerto Rico, I'd go days without wearing a shirt. I'd wake up, walk my dog shirtless, go to practice, train shirtless, go lift shirtless at my buddy's gym, and that was it.
That's the reason to move to Hawaii. So all you have to do is live in board shorts.
Not a bad gig.
Nicky, is any part of you like, hey, motherfucker, I've been on your show twice, like, and now you're texting me and DMing me and getting me on a third time? What are you doing?
No. I mean, if I didn't want to come on, I'd just keep ignoring you. So,
perfect.
I mean,
Easy solution.
The show is like Sesame Street. It sucks because I don't tell the guest this. Once you've been on once, like you have to keep coming on. And it's a little different than Sesame Street. Sesame Street is homophobic, sexist, and racist. This show is completely open and welcome to everyone and loves everyone. But you're like Big Bird, and Jason's like Snuffleupagus, and Sousa has a little more of a permanent role. He's like one of the fixtures, like the light post. But I appreciate you coming on as a regular. And Big Bird's, as a kid, I loved it when Big Bird, would like come on. You'd be like, oh shit, there he is.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, Nicky's like, what the fuck is Savon talking about?
Always.
Hey,
it is. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, did you see it, dude? Our video is actually performing pretty well. We have that YouTube video that's out. It has like 60,000 views in 5 days. I think what I don't know if you saw, but there was a lot of love and a few haters on that one, but it's performing well.
Yeah.
What are the haters about you, Jason?
Yeah, there's a few haters like, oh, Jason didn't know what a rear naked choke was, and he's no purple belt. I'm like, whoa, easy there, buddy. I know exactly what a rear naked is. Nicky was showing me a different variation of it, right? Or a slight adjustment, I should say. Yeah. And then number two, of course, I'm gonna look like a white belt going against him. Like, right. Like easy to watch it. The guy's massive and obviously talented. And anyway, it's just those keyboard warriors who really. Anyways, there was a few haters on there.
Okay. And they haven't started making shirts about what you said, did they?
No shirts.
Oh, okay. Well, I might have you beat.
Go ahead, Nicky. What were you gonna say?
I was just saying, you can't let them hurt your feelings, man. They're keyboard warriors for sure.
Oh, dude, they're not hurting my feelings. It's all good.
I like it that it has 60,000 views, and it's kind of a second run of this. This was already played on Flow Grappling. We've all seen this, and then it comes out 2 months later, and it's still killing it on YouTube, which is a testament to how good the video is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's uncomfortable for me to say your name, Nicky. Because you're like such a big man, and like Nicky's like my little brother, and like you're no Nicky.
I'm more like a big kid, to be honest. I'm only consider myself a bit of a child.
Yeah, you have you have that big kid vibe, but like Nicky's just such a I mean, it works for you. It's like misleading, right? Like your opponent's like, oh, I'm going up against Nicky. Oh fuck, he dropped the Y. It's Nick.
I think I was always Nick, and then I think my high school coach started calling me Ricky Garard, and it just kind of stuck. You know, all the hoodies and stuff throughout competing and whatnot. Just kind of flowed with Ricky Garard.
It's good. When I have a friend who Jason probably doesn't remember, who rolled with Jason a couple of years ago when Jason was a white belt, and he said Jason was dangerous, just your typical white belt, but like worse, because he was so fucking strong. And I don't roll, but there's this phenomenon with white belts where they can be dangerous. They can come in there and they just like. Did you get any of that from Jason? Like, oh fuck, like,
yeah,
this guy's fucking dangerous. I need to just smash him.
Jason's definitely a superior athlete. I mean, honestly, we rolled for like 40 minutes, and you know, he just did not stop. You know, didn't really get tired. It's really interesting to see a guy like with as much muscle mass as Jason has to have that really you know, long-term endurance. So yeah, he's good for sure.
Oh yeah. Man. Well, thank you.
Go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, Nick, so talk to me about, getting ready for ADCCs. I am curious, like you come off, was it who's number one, right? Who's number one? So tell me a little bit about like, where do you think from a point scoring perspective or a event, like I think the sport of jiu-jitsu is going through some like growth and changes. And I think they're trying to find out what is the best for the athletes, what's the best for the spectators, and how do you blend those two? So you have a really great match that's exciting, you know? Where do you think the sport's going to go in terms of like points versus time limit versus submission only? I'm curious because, you know, as an athlete, you must look at it one way. I imagine as a spectator, you look at it differently, but maybe they both line somewhere.
It's like it's kind of a blurred line because you have scenarios where, all right, you can put up a points, right? Like, I guess wrestling, you know, like college wrestling, NCAA is a good example, like where you can win by points or you can win by tech fall or pin. And then jiu-jitsu, we have either tournaments where it's sub only or tournaments where you can win by sub and or points. I feel like it's hard to say what's more entertaining because it really comes down to the athletes. So where if the guy's game plan, your opponent's game plan is to just like get an advantage, like maybe get a takedown or get on top and then stay away, it makes for a boring match. If you have two guys that are going for the submission constantly, then you usually have an exciting match where somebody wins via submission. I prefer personally like a 15-minute sub-only match, but I feel like the shorter the match, the more entertaining it's going to be because the faster pace it's going to be. If you have 15 minutes to scrap, you typically have to pace yourself so you have, you know, gas in the tank at the last 5 minutes. If you only have a 6-minute match or 8-minute match, you can pretty much go balls to the wall for 8 minutes, and you know you're not worried about getting, you know, overly exhausted. I think that would make for more entertaining as like a viewer-friendly match, but ultimately it comes down to the opponent, to the athletes. Like you guys know who the Rotolo brothers, right?
Yes, sir.
So those guys are, no matter what platform they're competing on, they're going to be entertaining. They're fast-paced. They're submission hunters. So I think it comes down to the overall mentality of the sport as a whole. Are guys trying to win by points via IBJJF platform, or guys trying to win by submission via flow grappling, or, you know, typically ADCC guys are going for subs as well.
I first of all, flow grappling, I purchased the $149 package for the year for one reason and one reason only. And you're looking at him, Nicky Rodriguez. Oh. And I bet you a lot of the listeners also did the exact same. I think that I'm a huge UFC fan. And the fact that you guys do a 15-minute fight, but it's still 3 rounds with no break, and just an intercom comes over and just says who's winning, like after every round, and you're still going. That's some fucking, like, that's gangster. It's like It's pretty crazy as the viewer to hear that and be like, oh shit, Nicky lost the first round. Oh shit. And when in the Elder Cruz fight, when they said you were winning the second round, does that mean you're winning the whole thing, or does that just mean you won the second round and now he's won the first round and we're going to the third? What's going on?
It just means that the judges are favoring a certain person.
So it's cumulative. So when they said in the second round at the 10-minute mark, when they said Nicky Rodriguez, it was cumulative. You are now in the lead.
No.
Oh,
No.
one round each.
It was like it's more of a 1-1. So if they favor him the first one, they favor me the second one, and it's like a 1-1. But like even there's no definitive like if there's no point scored, it's hard to define like who are they favoring and why.
Right.
It's like if you win or lose a close match in the Jits world, it's I mean, like it kind of is what it is, but the real win is the submission. You know, you sub a guy, you show dominance, you put him down, you get on top of him, you pass his guard and stuff like that. That's a win. A win's not like we just push each other around and nothing happens. That's not really entertaining for anybody.
What do you think about that match that you had with Elder? Are you shitting on it? You shitting on those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's really I think I was a little unfocused maybe going into that. I made a lot of mistakes in the sense of my wrestling. I didn't set my shots up. I was just kind of taking shots. I was focused too much on the hand fighting and getting the guy tired, which that worked. But it also so when we're hand fighting, I'm just pulling his head. I'm dragging him around the mat, right? He's on his toes and I'm pulling him. And it looks like to the judges that he's pushing me backwards when I'm just pulling his head along the ground and consistently draw the match. There's some learning that has to go on in the sport as far as like the people that are reffing, like they have to understand what wrestling is, what hand fighting is, how to determine who's winning the hand fight. And I don't know, honestly, a guy like Elder should be an easy win for me. So the fact that it was even close is definitely not good. So I got some stuff to work on. And I'm just in preparation constantly.
Do you walk off and kick something after that? Are you like pissed, or are you? Or how does Nicky Rodriguez?
No. I just analyzed it. I was like, all right, why didn't my strategy work? Also, like in a sport, I mean, in Jits, you gotta have more than one strategy. Like I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go out there, wrestle this guy, get on top of him, and hunt for the submission from there. But it's like, all right, what if you can't take him down? Like, what do you do then? Like I didn't really like plan for a backup plan like I usually do, and you just got to be prepared in more than one aspect.
Now, Nicky, question for you. So prior to this, you were working with Danaher for quite a while, right? Like a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
So before matches and stuff, I'm sure he would be very, very focused on what's the approach. I mean, I've watched him live in action, as obviously you have, and he's very in the moment on the match, and then he'll refresh what he's going on in his head after the match. He'll be able to regurgitate it. It's quite amazing. Without someone like that in your corner now, who is doing the coaching for you in terms of like your preparation for the match and the actual match execution?
So honestly, even when I was training with John, the preparation was definitely all up to me. John would pretty much run me through a warm up like the day before or the morning of, and maybe he'd ask me like, what my goal was, but there was no like specific, you should do this, you should do that. It was more like a mental coach. Like I feel like he would do a good job of boosting my confidence before I went out there, which would have a huge part in my game. I feel like regardless of my strategy, if I just have like overwhelming confidence, that kind of goes a long way in how I attack matches. I think in my preparation for this, I gotta weigh a lot in training with just taking shots and taking people down as opposed to setting them up properly like I usually do, and then going in and going for the takedown. John has done a lot for me, like in the grappling world, taught me a ton, and I learned a bunch from him. But honestly, ultimately, it's always kind of been up to me. It's like, all right, I have to train this today. I have to, like, in practice, I would be the one to say, all right, I'm going to focus on leg locks today. All right, I'm going to focus on wrestling today. So it was definitely always been a sense of independence. I'd say more than anything, John definitely coached us in the mental aspect. Like, we would be, I feel like because he was the one guy that in the room that would just like was always kind of watching us, we would work harder in practice to kind of try to please him, to have him say like, "Oh, good job, Ricky Garard." Like shit like that would kind of help the room as a whole kind of push a little bit harder and give us that mental edge. And I think that's something that we have to figure out as a team, a B team, how to work into our game plan.
Yeah, and then Savon, I just have one more thing for you.
Yeah, no, go take it. I'm good.
So when you're rolling no gi, right? There's some different schools of thought. One school of thought would be as slippery as humanly possible, right? No shirt, short shorts, get sweaty, make yourself really difficult to grab and connect with. Then you have guys who want to get into things like ankle locks, whatever they may be, and they actually want to have some level of something sticky or something to be on, right? Now I noticed in this match, right, you're wearing a rash guard. A lot of times you're not wearing a rash guard. So I'm curious, from how much does that play a role in terms of like wearing a rash guard, no rash guard, being able to get into ankle locks and things like that, or be able to hold position better because you're wearing one versus not? I mean, do you take that into consideration before a match and then decide what you want to do with that competitor?
Yeah. So previously I was competing a lot shirtless just because I didn't have much technique, and I was like, I could really only rely on my takedown ability. But because I'm more technically sound, I understand the game much more. I prefer to have a rash guard on because I feel as if the rash guard gives me a little bit extra grip. And if you're going for the submission, if you're going to sub the guy, typically a little bit more grip and traction is going to be beneficial. So yeah, I'd say now when I compete, I'll put a rash guard on. But I don't know. It's something about being shirtless, like when I compete, that I also feel like more elusive and just harder to control. And I think even like it puts me in a different mental state when I'm shirtless and I just have like my shorts on. I'm free. And I feel like I'm ready for battle. I don't know. There's a big mental aspect to competing that you have to figure out how to peak. I mean, I'm sure you understand this with CrossFit, but like how to peak in the right moment so you can get the most out of your competition.
You know the guy in the UFC, the 171-pound guy. He fights both classes. He's from Russia. Hazmat Chimanev. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He picked up the last dude he was fighting, carried him over to the edge where Dana was, and threw him on the ground and was like, "Look, Dana, like, are we seeing just insane mental? I mean, obviously he's a good fighter, but he's been in 4 fights and he's only been punched like 3 times, and he's just grabbing dudes and just doing horrible shit to him. Is that the mental state you're talking about? I mean, he goes in the ring like he's fucking Godzilla.
Yeah. You have to. It's like Tyson said it best. He was like, when I'm practicing, I'm a man, but when I'm competing, I'm God. So you have to put yourself on a pedestal. And I think Hazmat has the opportunity to win a belt. I think just his fights have been tremendous mismatches so far. So I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm excited to see a guy like that fight somebody of his caliber.
Hazmat, Nicky is in Austin, Texas. I think that video would go viral. You should go over there. The name of his company is B Team. Just go ahead and knock on the door. They're super duper welcoming. But you have to be advanced. They don't have any beginner classes, Hazmat, but you should go over there and please film that, Nicky. I would love to see.
Yeah, that'll be on YouTube for sure.
Knock. Nicky, this is Hazmat. You say I'm only fighting easy guys. Oh my goodness.
Dude, hey, how's it been? You've been rolling a little bit and working out with Tim Kennedy. How's that been?
Tim.
Be honest. He's an old dude who has nothing for you. Be honest, Nicky.
I'm gonna address our CrossFit style workouts first, right? Because we do some EMOM stuff and some some very difficult high intensity workouts. It surprised me how good of a shape he's in.
Oh yeah.
Like he's definitely a superior athlete. Like I can see his work ethic. I can see the first time we worked out together, we did what's called an acid bath.
Yeah.
So it was extremely hard, and it was eye opening. Like, all right, there's a group of like 5 or 6 guys in this room that work equally as hard as I do, and Tim does. So yeah, Tim's a very very skilled mixed martial artist, and he enjoys the hard work. Like before I go to train with them, he's like, "Oh, today's gonna be fun," and usually fun means it's gonna be insanely hard. So I have to mentally prep to go over there, you know. But yeah, Tim's jits is really it's good, it's tough, but his goal is more than subbing you is to kill you. So like he wants to get on top and like gouge your eyes out and shit like that. So yeah, he's been doing it forever. So yeah, he's pretty good. And he's in insanely good shape. Like he can go pretty hard for a very long time, like whether we're talking CrossFit in the gym or grappling. And it's impressive to see because he's not in his 20s anymore, man. The guy still gets it every day.
Yeah.
When you roll with him, do you ever feel his Glock in his shorts? Like you're like, hey, dude, you can't.
He keeps it on him for sure.
Dude, that guy, when you think about someone that you wouldn't, like a year or two ago, his house got broken into. And I remember him putting up a video and I'm just thinking to myself, man, that dude broke into the wrong house. This is a UFC fighter, Army, he's all overseas all the time, special forces. I'm like, look at him, like worst guy to, teach his combatives. But anyways, I thought that was cool that you're training with him. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's very positive, but he's got, as nice as he is, he's got a bit of he's got like shark eyes. You ever stare into a shark and they're just fucking soulless? Tim Kennedy's a bit soulless when he wants to be.
Like rattlesnake eyes, like Oliver Stone has those, the director. Like every time I see him in an interview, I'm like, what?
Totally nice guy and great heart and does a lot for his people and community. But man, he fucking has that switch, you can tell.
Do you want to go at it with Elder again? Like, and did you talk to him after the match?
Yeah, I asked for a rematch right after, just because it wasn't my best performance, and a guy like that, again, I should be subbing that guy, for the first 5-10 minutes. So yeah, it'll be good to go again and attack it with a different strategy, because I am still learning, the jiu-jitsu world. I've been here 3 years. I'm evolving. I'm constantly trying to learn new techniques and learn what I can do in competition. Preparation for ADCC. So yeah, I can plan on competing a bunch before ADCC in September, and yeah, it's gonna be fun.
When you say sub him, you mean take his back and choke him until he feels like he's gonna die, and he taps out and says,
"That's exactly what I mean."
Okay, because my mom watches the show and she might not know what subbing means, and I just want her to have a distinct understanding.
Gotcha.
Is it friendly with him afterwards? And should you be asking for a rematch right after the show? Like, are you thinking clearly? Is that something like you should have like some sort of rule, like you don't ask for it like for 3 days or some shit?
Well, I did it like the morning after, so it was like a 12-hour break or so.
Okay.
But
so it's like a date. You slept on it. You slept with her, and then you're like, yeah, let's go out again.
There you go. Good round 2.
That makes sense. And is he game?
Is he game? I don't know. No, they haven't responded. No, I don't think he's. Yeah, I don't think he wants that. But yeah, I mean, whoever it is, I just need to compete more. I've been out for a little bit.
Who's next?
Who's next? I don't know who's next. I gave my guys from Full Grappling a bunch of names. It's hard to get heavyweight matches, guys my size. Usually, guys on the come up, brown belts or younger black belts, kind of will take matches with me. The high up guys really don't like it.
Flow Grappling, people have to be going there they must have seen a spike. Instead of the 12 people who normally watch, they must have had like 24 this time.
No, I think they do pretty well, actually.
And like what the fuck is going on? How they got to get you a match. We got to start building it. Have you done any podcast after? Is this your first podcast you've done after, or your interview you've done? Because I couldn't find any interviews of you after the Elder Cruz match.
After that match, yeah. I mean, I'll do interviews after I win, but I try to fight depression after a loss, so I don't talk to anybody for a while.
Yeah, I wanted to get you on here just spewing venom, like right away, like totally take advantage of you in your weak emotional state.
I think it's a good idea that you're getting some competition in, Nicky. Like, getting ready for ADCCs. That's ultimately your that's your version of the Olympics. It happens every 2 years. It's a badass event. But getting in some more competition before that is the key, because ultimately you just want to build your confidence and get more competition exposure before that big day. Because you took silver 2 years ago. right?
Yeah, well, almost 3 years now.
Almost 3 years. Yeah. So that's yeah, man, I'm fired up to watch all the competition. And then also ADCCs. I got to go out there in Vegas and go watch you guys throw down. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're right about the competing part, because before ADCC of 2019, I had like 30 or 40 matches in like 6 months prior to ADCC. So like when I went on there, I already had a competition, 2 weeks ago, and then a week before that. So I was acclimated, I was completely in the zone. And yeah, there's just a kind of mental aspect or mentality that I have to hit, and I have to peak at the right time to kind of get the most out of my my grappling. Just some adjustments.
The big dude who's in the documentary with you, I think he's from Jersey. He's one of your early coaches. Was he at the match with Elder Cruz? What's his name?
Is it Gordon?
No, it's pre-Gordon. It's
A Regabudo you're talking about.
Yes. Was he there with you?
No, he wasn't with me. He lives back in Jersey, but I'll see him occasionally. He does some commentary here and there and on different events, so I see him around.
Yeah, are you still close with him?
Yeah, we talk for sure.
Yeah, maybe you should bring him, because in that documentary, you're basically I mean, I'm being a little melodramatic, but you're basically walking around that fucking event, that ADCC event, like a lion, and he just has you on a leash. You know what I mean? He's the only guy you're fucking talking to. You basically don't want to deal with the cameras too much. And then basically he walks you over to the mat, untethers you, and then you just whoop ass, and then you come back and he takes you back, puts you in your cage. I mean, maybe you need that dude around.
I feel like when I compete, I almost don't see like other people or the audience. I kind of just see the mat and task ahead, pretty hyper focused on that day.
Do you have any issues coming back and in facing your team when you come back? Like you let the family down at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, the second you walk through the door, if you lose, it's like they're laughing at you and talking about you. Like,
oh, it is like that. Wow.
They make it so you don't want to lose again. So for sure, it's a bit painful going back in that room, painful and shameful. But I think that's necessary. I think, if your friends kind of are mean to you, it makes it easier if other people are mean to you.
So it's not that you come in there and you're Nicky Rod and they all avoid eye contact with you. It's you go in there and you open your locker and there's a box of tampons in there and it says, "These are for you, Nicky." It's more like that.
That's exactly how it is at B Team.
Holy shit, that's good.
Yeah, no mercy.
That's great stuff. Nicky, Jason, do you have a final question before we let Mr. Nicky go? And
no, man, I'm fired up to watch you throw down. I got to head back out to Austin and go see what's up at B Team. But man, it's been great to see what you have going on online, and I'm glad our YouTube video is doing what it's doing. And it's cool that you and Hani were able to connect about for your supplements and what you have going on there. That was cool for me to see that there were some connections between the bodybuilding world and what you have going on in jiu-jitsu. So man, just fired up, dude. And I think my question was really about I think for me, looking at jiu-jitsu, it's so important to get that competition exposure, because there's really nothing that mimics, about to go in there and battle than actually doing it. Like practice is cool, but when you're actually competing, it's a little bit of a different level. So I love the fact that you want to get in some more matches before ADCCs, and I will be watching.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
And if you need to build your confidence, just come over to California and beat up on Jason. We'll
if you need to build your confidence, come over here to Bay Area. You'll be able to smash on somebody.
Jason, Nicky, you guys are awesome. Thanks, dude. Thank you,
Thanks,
Nicky.
guys.
Right,
and I'll keep slipping into your DMs, buddy. Thank you.
Right, see you guys.
See ya. And just like that, I'm like a fucking real show. There's just
wow.
Boom.
Just like that. Look at that. That was fucking impressive.
Joe Rogan and Howard Stern had their DNA removed, shaken into a test tube. Mom, turn this part off. Slapped into my mom. My mom grew me.
I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, though. I don't have my shirt off.
Hey.
Pop the top, baby. Pop the top.
Nowhere near as cool as that dude. No way. That's not happening.
It's an egoless enlightened Buddha man like myself. It's really weird when my ego gets activated. But someone texted me yesterday and said, "Holy shit, or maybe it's 2 days ago, you and Cotler are going to talk for 4 hours. And I'm like,
I would fucking love that.
And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Cotler? He's just some dude out in Vegas. And then I watched like, it's an affiliate owner. I tried.
Was it Craigie? Was it Craigie Howard?
No, not Craig Howard. No, not affiliate owner outside of California. And then I started doing research on you, and I'm like, oh shit, that's why they said that, dude. You are like a dinosaur. You've been around. You were Pomanian's coach.
Yeah, dude.
I was in your fucking gym.
I know.
That big fucking the meathead gym, the crazy one, like the one, like it was like a dream fucking in New York. And she had the whole gym to herself. I went in there and filmed her in there. There was no one in there.
I was still working for that was before I opened up my own place, man. And we were working out of that Globo gym, still working for people who thought the world was flat. You know, we had to teach a class. At midnight was the only time they would let us do CrossFit. It was called Midnight Madness on Thursday nights. That was the only time. That's where we found Jessica.
Hey, that gym was so hardcore. Now they have gyms where you have to get a shot from Pfizer to go in. This gym, you had to get a shot from someone. And I had to take it in the butt. And let me tell you, like, the dumbbell started at 100 pounds in that fucking place. That place was gnarly. Yeah. What was the rent at that place? Like $300,000 a month?
Oh, I don't fucking know. So it was owned by that gym was owned by personal injury lawyers.
Mm-hmm. yes.
So let me tell you a quick story about that. So Please. It was owned by personal injury lawyers. I started working. So right after Jessica, I started working with another female athlete there who was a beast at the time, and I wasn't. So they got on my case because she wasn't officially a client, right? So it wasn't going through the gym. We were working together in CrossFit. They didn't really understand CrossFit, but anyway, I got pulled in by one of the personal injury lawyers, and he said to me, I said, listen, man, I'm not taking money out of your pocket. I'm not even taking money from her. We're just working together, blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, I know you're not taking money out of my pocket because if you were, I'd cut your fucking throat.
That's the lawyer?
That's who I was working. Yeah, that's who owned the gym.
Hey, was that dude juiced up? Were they juiced up lawyers?
They were just very, they were shady as fuck.
Did they have like veins in their foreheads and shit?
Two, I would say 2 out of the 3 did for sure, and they were sleeping with everybody, and it was interesting.
If you're a lawyer and you're not taking steroids, you're not doing it right. and I mean that, like, you think I'm joking, but kind of I'm not, because that shit gives people such confidence, and they start oozing like I guess it's like some sort of pheromone or something, and they just take. I mean, if you're in the room with someone who's taking that shit right and is cool, man, it can make some incredible personalities. Very confident.
It was interesting. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Justin.
How you doing, brother?
Good. I don't know what that conversation is, but there's a couple lawyers that train at the gym, and they always have great stories.
Yeah, I was working for an interesting few lawyers when I first started coaching a long time ago. 12 years ago, they owned a gym. Personal injury lawyers. They were pretty fucked up. So yeah, it was pretty hilarious.
For those of you just tuning in, this is Justin Cotler on here. Justin is the founder and owner. I'm guessing he would probably say with his wife or
definitely with my wife
and his daughter also. Of Underdogs Athletics. Is the Athletics also have an S? It's 2 S's, one on each.
Yeah, 2 S's. Yeah,
Underdogs Athletics.
Tongue twister.
And he has a quite the background. He does the stuff with that group, International Fitness League or something, that's trying to basically get CrossFit to the Olympics or high intensity training. He was a coach at the Grid League. But what's crazier is that he has literally been, it feels like been around forever. I was listening to your podcast with the dude from England.
Oh yeah, from Ireland, Peter, for Coffee Pods and Wads.
Yeah, I listened to that one, and then I listened to the one with Tommy and Shawnee, and I listened to another one. One other. By the way, I got really fit while listening to you because I put the headphones on. I get on the assault bike.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Dang.
Yes.
Oof, that's nasty.
It was with a lady. It was with a lady from South Africa.
Oh yeah, I did that one. I felt like not too long after the games. After she wanted to talk all about the COVID shit show that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
South Africa. I'm trying to think who that is.
Short hair.
Yeah, she was cool. I honestly can't remember the name of
Is she involved with their semifinal at all?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys had my boy on yesterday, Jedediah.
Yeah. Do you train him?
No, I just dig it. I just dig him. He's awesome.
Yeah, he was pretty easy. He was cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's coming down in the Open. He's coming down the last week of the Open to throw down with us. He did it last year too. He's just a really good dude.
And you have DeLugos at your gym?
Oh yeah, I've been coaching Matty for several years now. I love that dude.
Please tell him I said hi.
Yeah. I will.
He doesn't know who I am, but I'd like to lure his ass on the show.
He knows who you are. He knows who you are.
Yeah, we need to get him on. I spoke with him at Wadapalooza, and he was a good guy.
Oh, you guys will love him, man. He's just awesome. He's such a good kid. He's getting some just due right now, which is nice to see.
Do you have a drug policy with your athletes?
Don't take them.
Like, we had Ben Bergeron on. It seems a little closed-minded of you, by the way, Justin.
Sorry.
We had what if I'm not going to compete? Can I take them then?
I mean,
because we had Ben Bergeron on, and he was like, none of the athletes do drugs, and I was like, well, and he was talking about all these policies that he had in place, and then he was like,
no, I don't really have any policies.
Yeah, and he said he didn't have a policy, and he was kind of shocked that he didn't have a policy. But the reason why I ask is like someone like Joe Rogan, or there's all these people who take this testosterone replacement therapy, which I don't know much about it, but I just think it's all just steroids to me, with no judgment, just performance enhancing drugs or whatever. Like someone be like, your testosterone's low, and I'll be like, how do you know?
Right.
Like, you haven't seen what happens in the morning when I wake up. You don't know what I'm going with. Okay, so it's kind of an unspoken. And the reason why I ask is because I watched the podcast with you and Sean and Shawnee and Tommy, and the conversations around Ricky. I really like the way Chase interviewed him. It's fine. It's not my style. I'm glad I didn't have to do it. I don't ever want to talk to anyone like that. Right. But there's a talking down piece that kind of fucking irritates me. Like people like talking down to him like he owes us something.
No, I agree with that.
Like, how about fuck you? I'll take what I want. I mean, I understand it's different with you. You're his coach and you have a reputation. But there's this piece like everyone's his daddy. It's like, hey, like, you ain't his daddy.
No,
not you, but I mean the world. Do you know what I mean?
It's tough, man. It's hard
for
me to watch because he's such a good fucking dude. Like,
he's awesome.
He's such a good dude, you know. Like, and I appreciated the fact that like people were able to see that a bit when you had him on, because he kind of
people loved him.
Yeah,
people loved him
because that's him. I mean, he's funny. I mean, listen, he's introverted and he's not the most comfortable on camera. But if you like warm him up and get him going, he's hilarious, man. He's funny, you know. He's just a good dude, you know. And I love him because he will run through a fucking wall for you. Like, it's unbelievable, you know. There's never an excuse. He just is who he is. You know, he's got that rugby mentality. He's tough as nails. But he's a good dude, man. He's funny. I really, you know, and I've always gotten along with his brother. I knew his brother well from Grid, you know. His brother played for San Francisco. Yeah.
Good dude.
And I always got along well with Benny. You know, while I was coaching Con, and Benny would hang out with us sometimes and stuff. So it was cool, you know. But it's been great. I've really enjoyed Ricky, and I agree with you, man. I feel like now he paid his dues. He did his time, and
more than enough.
Let the fucking guy let him do his thing now. You know.
How long was Justin on before I got on here, Sevan?
8 seconds.
Oh, okay. What was the like back and forth in terms of deciding whether he was going to stay in the U.S. for a while or go back to Australia?
Dude, he had a horrible time when he was here. Both of us caught COVID on the flight back from Dubai. Both of us were sick as shit. He lost 10 pounds in a week. Then he was staying in an extended stay here in Vegas with drug dealers and prostitutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Bad fucking time when he was here, man. It was not a good representation of Vegas at all. But
nah,
you know what?
come on, it sounds perfect.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I promise. But I will say this: like, he wasn't able to get into any type of routine, and he is a very routine-oriented dude in the sense that, like, he has his family, he has his dogs, he has his, the beach. He goes mountain biking, and
he's a family man too. He's got a mommy and daddy he loves. 100%. You can tell. Yep.
Yeah, and I could just tell, And then when he went down to Wadapalooza and he got sick again, he was ready to get the fuck out of the States. Like, he was ready to roll. And I was like, cool, because he looked so good at Dubai. And honestly, watching him prepare for Wadapalooza, in the back of my head, I was like, this guy is not the same guy that I just watched a couple weeks ago. I was telling you, Brian, I was like, to me, he got to Wadapalooza and caught a, whatever it was, a stomach bug of some kind. And it really, like, it helped me because I had been hinting, like, dude, you're not yourself right now. This doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't competed in 4 years. The trolls are out there. You're going to get fucking annihilated if you go out there and finish 18th. Like, it's just, you just came off of Dubai. Let's go back.
And let's face it, Colton Mertens would have smoked his ass.
Well, that week, I might have smoked his ass that week.
But but from the outside perspective, prior to that happening at Wadapalooza, everything about him moving to the U.S., getting into a new environment, having a very good coach has a good head on his shoulders and can help steer him in the right direction seemed like it was going to be a super positive thing for him and made a lot of sense. But talking to him about it, hearing you talk about it, and then even just, the little snippets we get here and there on Instagram since he's been back there, it seems pretty obvious to me he's in the right place right now.
I think he is. And I would generally say that being here and being in the environment is a great thing for most athletes, but there are going to be some where they just have this thing at home, man. And he does. He's got his support system. He's, there with his girlfriend and Benny and that gym. I mean, man, they fucking love him. And they give him so much good vibes, and to me, it was a no-brainer. He was here. I could tell he was out of his element. And now that he's back there, he's thriving again. I mean, I'd say he's now back to where he was prior to Wadapalooza. It took a little while after COVID and losing weight and stuff. But I expect that, that over the next several months, you're going to just see him get better and better and better. And I can't wait for Torian. It's going to be exciting.
Well, yeah. And that's ultimately where he's got to be ready because even with, Con Porter going on a team this year, and I think there may be one or other two guys from the top 10 that won't compete. It's still a really tough region to qualify in.
Absolutely. No question about it. And I also feel like generally you see the results from quarterfinals. Now it's tough to tell, right? I mean, this year we'll be able to compare a little bit better with the events, like two events in each one. But historically, right, like in regionals, Australia, the numbers were always phenomenal. The guys were great. They tend to perform a little bit better at those events than they do at the games historically. But I mean, they're
until this last year.
Well, yeah, Baden was great. I mean, Crouch is going to be tough. Royce is really good. Yeah, it's good, man. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm I don't want to sound cocky or anything. I'm confident as fuck about Ricky. I think Ricky's going to have a great season, man. I really do. Yeah.
Brian, I love seeing you, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a while. I really love seeing you.
I know I had
kind of upstaging Justin. I was so excited. Like I was like, but now like I just keep staring at you. Sorry.
I know. No, dude, I don't blame you. That beard just keeps getting better and better, Brian.
We missed the beard in that photo behind you,
It's
Brian.
getting fucking good.
Justin,
I know everyone loves the picture.
hold that thought, Brian. I just got one thing to say about Justin and Con Porter. You could just kill all the men on the planet and just seed the women on the planet with the two of them. It would be fucking. Can you imagine that? Just grab them. Just have God grab them and kind of squeeze their balls and just seed the whole planet with the remaining women. What?
Have you had Con on?
No, I got to. I'm kind of intimidated by him because he's so handsome. I'm serious. He's a lot to look at.
I'm going to tell you right now. It'll be about 10 minutes and you will fall in love.
Yeah, it's already like that. It's going to be weird. Yeah.
Oh, he's just.
I think he's saying that's the problem. He's already in love with it.
That's the problem. I just be like tongue hanging out of my mouth. He's dope.
Oh yeah.
He's a specimen.
He's like our Aussie son. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, Brian. Were you gonna? Brian, I have a question for you, real quick. I heard when you guys when you and Justin just now were talking about semifinals with 2 workouts in like that are set. You had a grin on your face, like you already have an opinion about that. Is that a different show, or is there something you want to share with us?
No, I just
You like this
look.
thing?
I love. No, I like being really supportive of CrossFit when I can, but I also think that it's healthy for someone to be not necessarily critical, but questioning of some of the decisions they make as well. And there's
I'm
been
in the same boat, Brian.
there's been a lot of decisions this last month that I have some questions about, and I have, I don't know why I don't know the answers because I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone or hear from anyone about them. Their answers are just very vanilla. They're like, oh, these are the plans. This is what we're doing. But there's nothing behind it of substance. I'm sure that there are conversations of substance going on at the home office or whatever they're calling it, but the decisions don't always make sense to me. So I'm trying to understand them better.
Okay. And that's kind of like, part of me wants to be like, well, what the fuck do you care? It's their business, but that's kind of our job. That's what we do in the ecosystem. We're like flies on shit. We're like, all right, you guys do something, we'll respond.
No, I mean, I started doing this because I saw there was an opportunity basically to get more recognition for athletes in the sport that were working really hard, and I felt it was really top heavy, and then and I think that I've had some success in that regard of creating more recognition from larger pool of athletes, or at least I've been a part of that, and I want to keep doing it. But the biggest thing for me is I don't like the amount of time that is going to pass between when the first people and the last people qualify for the games.
And we talked about that. Yeah. Do you know what he's referencing, Justin?
Yeah, for sure. And last year we were last, West Coast, and we had no time to prepare for the games. I mean, essentially, you're coming off of what I thought was the most difficult semifinal for sure, especially when they added the ruck run in 117-degree weather, and then we had to take a good solid week to recover. And then we had 3 weeks straight ahead till the game. So it was a challenge.
And you didn't have to do the last chance qualifier. There were people that came out of that competition and had to do the last chance qualifier.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
And none of them made it through from that were West Coast last chance qualifiers. But if they had, think about even that, the turnaround.
No.
And it's going to be that way for someone again this year.
I know.
And that's why I said, like the 2 workouts is cool, and we can do that comparison. But I would rather just see them all the same. And if you're not, and then you can take everyone who didn't make it. You can pick your last chance qualifiers from that, and you at least give everyone at the bare minimum 5 weeks to prepare.
5 weeks. Yeah, it would be about 5 weeks, which is still not great. But
but Brian, aren't you like, hey, 2 of the workouts are going to be the same at all of them? We're halfway there. Does that help at all, or no?
No. When that announcement came out, that it was in an email, one of the Hopper emails that CrossFit's been sending out, I reposted it and I said, I don't see anything negative here. So I thought everything in that email was a positive step in the right direction. Maybe it wasn't the full step, but at least it was what I thought and think is a move in the right direction.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm going to go all the way back. I think it was 2010. So those of you who don't know, Jessica Pamanian was she was a games athlete. What was the best she ever did? Fourth. Crazy that you can get 4th and no one can know who you are.
Seven. Do you remember who got 3rd for the men in 2010?
I think Graham took 1st. Rich took 2nd.
Yeah.
Matt Chan.
Come on. Nope.
Spieler?
Oh, yeah. That year, I got into a huge fight with Dave because I accused Dave of loading the games for Spieler. That I was like, hey, why didn't you just call it the Spieler games? Because I just didn't think that he had any business being on the podium, that it had to have been rigged.
And then right behind him were Matt Chan and Miko Salo. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Miko couldn't do a double under, or else he probably would have made the podium.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, couldn't do double unders, man. I remember it. I was there watching, like, what? You can't do doubles? What's going on? Oh, yeah.
Has anything like that happened in the last couple of years? Has anything happened like at the last year's games? Was anyone there where like you're like, oh shit, that person can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, cleaning the first barbell of event 7 was not happening for Haley. Yeah, but that wasn't necessarily as surprising.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And that's and that's not a programming issue, right?
No.
Not everyone else could do it. So
Right. Because there becomes a point when it's a programming issue. If let's say it was the inverse, right? Only one person did it, then you guys would be blaming the programmer. But since it's only one person couldn't do it, you blame the athlete. There's some formula like that.
I guess. I mean, you can think, obviously everyone knows in 2015, there were only 12 of 40 women that could do even one pegboard that year. But the next year, most of them or all of them could at least do one. So sometimes you have to do that to push the thing forward. But no, that wasn't a programming error. None of those were programming errors.
Back in the day, I mean, that 2010 games, right? That Amanda, you had, I mean, Annie Thorsdottir didn't get through the first round of muscle ups and came in second. I mean, Kristen Clever fucking crushed it, but she crushed everything. But Annie, I don't think Annie was able to do one strict handstand push-up, not one. I think she just sat there for however long that was. That was that. For the men, it was the ring handstand push-ups that year, but for the women, it was strict, and you had very few women who could do strict handstand push-ups. I mean, it's crazy. The evolution's fucking nuts. But just thinking about that back then and what it's pushed people to do. But yeah, we haven't seen anything like that since the pegboard, really, where people just kind of stood around and watched.
How about that championship mindset? There's people who, if that would have happened to them at the games, I guess, would devastate them. And then look at Annie, she stood the worst possible nightmare in your CrossFit Games thought process has happened to her, not being able to do something, and yet last year she took second. It's nuts.
She's a cyborg, bro.
Yeah, and really at this point, I love Tia beyond love Tia. Like, kudos to you. I got one negative thing, but I mean, Annie could have won the CrossFit Games this year. Fucking Tia tested positive for COVID. If she wouldn't have paid, well, she did test positive. She just paid someone off to say negative. Hey, what do you think about that? What do you think? Do you think that they should have just let Kari and Bethany compete? Like, so what if they have COVID?
Hell yeah!
Like what the fuck is? What's your problem?
I do. I mean, I kind of fall into the camp of
good. I think so too. So what? What do you care if they compete? It's their problem.
But I will tell you this: Bethany was sick. She would not have been it. Yeah, she was really sick. Kari, I think probably, her symptoms weren't nearly as bad. I don't think she would have been 100%, and I don't think she would have performed extremely well. But she could have gotten through it. I mean, she's also tough as fucking nails. You know what I mean? So, not to say Bethany isn't. Bethany was sick though. So Bethany had high fever and body chills and the whole nine. I mean, she was sick. But I think as we move forward here, right? I mean, I think ultimately it's going to be it's going to be treated like the flu, and you're going to see people pull like Michael Jordan type, performances out of their ass, like when he was in the finals, and still be able to do stuff. But it's different. CrossFit's different. It's not a 2-hour event. You're talking about 4 or 5 days of just beating the fuck out of yourself, and that's very challenging with something like COVID. I mean, it knocked me on my ass, man. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. 3 days where I had 103 fever, and I felt like, I wanted someone to stick a knife in my eyeball. That's how bad I had a migraine that was so bad, So but some people, the people who are asymptomatic or, it's not a big deal. To me, it's like at this point, let's go.
Yeah, it seems like it should be up to the athlete and the coach to make the decision whether they're able to compete or not. I mean, I always think back to what was like 2014 regionals with Rich Froning, and he was clearly had some sort of head cold or something going on, and he was just competing through it, and he'd go back in the warm-up area and you'd see him hacking up and with a runny nose and everything else, and then he would get ready for the next event and go back out there, and that was his decision, not the governing body of CrossFit, right? Just to pull it out. So I don't know. That's my opinion on it, at least.
But Matthew, they might spread it to the other athletes. But Matthew, you don't understand. Sorry to jerk myself off again. Not really that sorry. Do you understand that's how you ask questions, people? That like you're not like everyone else is like she had COVID. Of course she's out. You don't accept that. You don't accept that. That's not how you ask questions. That's not how you live your life. You go the opposite way. You say, why couldn't she compete? Well, they said she had COVID. So what? What does that mean? You can't run that way because there's a brick wall. And if you do, you're going to hit it with your face. COVID's it's a thought, it's an idea, it's a virus, but don't let it stop you from asking questions why couldn't Bethany and Kari compete? It's a totally valid question. You have all these answers and reasons why they can't that are prepared. None of those are real because it might spread. Everyone knows the games was a super spreader event. Everyone knows Wadapalooza was a super spreader event. We all know it. So what? I'm not saying that tongue in cheek, people. The vast majority of people that I know who went to the games came home with COVID. The vast majority of people I know who went to Wadapalooza came home with COVID. That's we're human beings. That's what happens. This is what we do. And those of you who are locked inside have an extremely higher rate of not only getting it but dying. But I'll get off my.
Justin, what are you still working with Kari?
Kari's taking the year off. So Kari pops in when she wants to. She'll cherry pick right now. She'll cherry pick her workouts. But Kari's helping me out a little bit. We had a great discussion like 2 weeks ago. She basically has made herself available for any of the athletes here at the Underdogs camp that want to meet with her, talk about mindset, talk about preparation, talk about habits. She's going to write some articles for Underdogs Athletics about competition and competition prep and some various other things. I mean, she's busy as shit with Power Apps, no doubt about it. But Kari's like family now. I mean, she moved out here to Vegas with us. So she's part of the family, and I think for right now, I think she's happy what she's doing. But I would not be surprised if we see her back on the competition floor in some capacity. I would assume probably something like teams, maybe next year or the year after, something like that.
Brian, the 3 podcasts I listened to, each one. He lets out a little bit, slip out a little bit more. You can hear that him and Kari are talking. It's funny. This is the first time I heard that I sense now, if I'm reading through the lines, that she could even come back individual. It's very clear as you listen to podcasts that she's coming back team, or at least they're talking about it. But now I'm even sensing a little something even weirder coming out of Justin. Well, no, she's chomping at the bit in there. She's
still crushing people, dude. I'm going to tell you right now. She walks in the gym, and we haven't seen her for 3-4 days, and we'll do a workout, and Kari just fucking come in and annihilate people. I mean, it's crazy.
Two things. One is I specifically asked the question of, are you working with her? Because I didn't necessarily mean as a coach athlete. I thought she might be just helping you in some regard.
She does, yes.
Second is that thing that you just said right there is something that people should pay attention to. If you want to crush the open, you only have to be able to crush one workout a week. But if she showed up for Wadapalooza training how she is right now, I think that the first day would go well, and we'll see how the rest of the weekend goes.
She's still pretty fit. I think she would have done well at Wadapalooza. I think. Listen, she's been competing since she was 5 years old. That girl knows nothing but fucking competing. Like she, even her retired, she's eating better, sleeping better. Still training in her garage gym. She's still doing things that 99.9% of the world can't do. I'd say the biggest thing right now is the fact that she's not lifting as heavy, right, as she has been. So she would probably get her ass handed to her a little bit on the strength events. But honestly, that was never her bag anyway. You know what I mean? She was always going to have to manage that type of an event. But you give her high skill, you give her, anything with grit, and she would still do really well on it. She's just that type of person.
Was she too small? If she was a 10 pounds bigger human being, would she have won the game? Would it be a whole different creature?
I don't know that it was a weight issue. I
not necessarily weight, but you know what I mean. Like if she was
stature,
an inch and a half taller, and then spread 10 pounds through that, is she like, oh shit, Tia's got a problem?
I don't know. Listen, Tia is. I don't know what you can say about Tia. Tia's once in a generation.
They did really good with that cyborg. We all believe it's human. That's what you say about Tia.
Yeah, I mean, she's just it's crazy. But an inch and a half, 2 inches, 3 inches taller on events, that had rowing or wall balls or some of those things that, were historically really a big challenge for her. Sure, it would help. But then you could say, well, what about, how would that take away from her gymnastics or handstand push-ups, right? She's got shorter levers, so she dominated on that stuff. I think there's a give and take there, man. I don't know that it would have mattered. I think if you go down the history of CrossFit, she's currently, I'm not saying she'll end that way, but she's currently the top American woman, I think. And I would say she's probably top 6 or 7 of all time, right? If you throw Holtby in there, and Kari, very, very similar careers. And obviously you've got the Mount Rushmore of those, well, of the 3, right? I mean, Tia, then Annie and Katrin, however you want to put them. Brian would Brian would geek out on this stuff, But yeah, Kari's, I would, she's got to be maybe 6th. Brian, I would say 6th or 7th.
I have Tia, Annie, Katrin, probably Kara Saunders, Sam Briggs, and then Holta and Kari. Yeah,
right there you go. So you could argue 6 or 7. I would say for sure.
What was the girl's name out of New York from 2009? People thought she was going to win the games in 2009. She had a really bad run, and
was she actually at the games?
She was at the game. She threw a major temper tantrum after the run. Everyone thought she was going to win the game. She was super jacked and yoked out of New York. We did a piece on her.
Did she compete in the 2008 games?
She never came back again. I think she did. She was a bodybuilder, gymnast. She trained at the Black Box with Jen Hunter. That's a do you know what I'm talking about?
Did she finish in the top 10 either of those years, or was she just like totally bomb?
I think she was supposed to annihilate the games in 2009, and after the second event or whatever that run event was.
Well, there was Heather Bergeron, who was really good, and then there was Lauren Plumet.
These girls were like, this girl was like on a whole different league than them, like on a whole nother planet. And we did a piece on her. I'm trying to remember her name. Her name started with a G.
Jillian Mounsey?
Yes. Did you know her?
She got 3rd in 2008. I don't even see her in 2009.
I think she dropped out after the second event. She was so fucking angry that they put a long.
Yeah, she finished 59th in that year. So she probably just did one event and stuff.
So the thing with Jillian Munzie, so she would do Fran and she would beat everyone, and she was a gymnast, and then she wouldn't be lying on the ground. I'm going to tie this to Kari Pierce here real quick. And any time, and Annie used to do this too, and maybe she does a little bit. There is a setup, a Zen tea party, a kind of like a transition that gymnasts do in the beginning of every move and at the end of every move. You know, it might be like this or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, sure.
Do you think any part of that hurt Kari? Because that she was too eloquent, that she was too perfect, that she was too formal, that like it was perfection.
No, I don't
and
think
missing
so.
a piece of recklessness. No, okay.
I don't think so.
You know what I'm saying? Like
yes,
because of
I
that
do.
gymnastic perfection. Yeah,
right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's the virtuosity in every single event, right?
Yes.
No,
this isn't a dig, of course. This is just like
no, and that's one of the things actually that Kari and I, when we first started working together, like, it was competition is very different, right, than being in a class or teaching. I mean, ultimately, right, we always talk about riding a line, right, between intensity and efficiency. And at the games, sometimes you got to get dirty, like it's about getting the work done. And I think by the end, Kari was of the mindset that this is by any means necessary. Like, however I have to beat somebody,
Malcolm
X. I don't give a rat's ass what it looks like. Ultimately, it's now, of course, we've seen obviously in the past that those who tend to be more efficient, obviously, over 4 or 5 days end up doing better most of the time. But we've still had some people who've won the games who are not great movers. I'm going to tell you right now, like if you go back and watch it, I'm not going to call people out, but there are people who won the games who are not great movers.
Sam Briggs.
So I love Sam. But there you go.
Nice, Justin.
There's nobody whose heart is bigger. Right? Like there's nobody whose grit is, I mean, that girl can handle more pain more pain in her fucking pinky than I can in my whole body. Let's be honest. All right. And that's Kari too. Kari has a little bit of that, but also with the virtuosity of all those gymnastics events. Right. But I don't think Kari gets enough credit for how much better she got at all the monostructural events that she sucked at, right, for years. And then before you know it, like, holy shit, Kari's pretty good at running now. Like, holy shit, Kari's not bad on the assault bike now. Oh, Kari's pretty good at this. I mean, you know, I think ultimately, you know, I'm not sure she got enough credit for that. I feel like everybody just talked about how good she was at handstand push-ups. And it wasn't until like Atlanta where they were like, holy shit, she actually can run too. Like that she actually, you know, that she got that just due. But to be honest with you, if you know anything about it, and I mean, you know, hindsight's 20/20. But if you watch the games in 2019 where Kari fell off the rings, she fell off the rings because we weren't fucking playing for fifth or sixth or seventh. She fell off the rings because we were trying to win the fucking games. Like we were at least going for second. She was lined up for it perfectly, and we made a strategic decision to shorten her reps on the toes to rings, and it was working until the last rep where she, you know, her hip flexors and her grip went out and she fell, and we fucking went for it and we got burned. You know, what are you gonna say at the end? She finished fifth. You know, she still was top American, but there's no doubt in my mind she finishes that workout and doesn't fall and get the wind knocked out of her and get a fucking concussion. She finishes second that year, and then she's second and third in back-to-back years. You know, there's no doubt in my mind. But that sometimes that's what happens, man. You know, sometimes you don't play for second. You know, you got to fucking go for it, and that's what we did that year.
And that's it. Then I mean, no, that's awesome, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people have that insight to. Like, there's even at the games, obviously everyone's amazing, but there's different, you know, tiers of athletes, and once you get into it a couple days, you're very aware as a coach or athlete or team or whatever of who's very close to you, and you have to sometimes take those risks, and it's a calculated risk, and you understand that if you do it perfectly, there's a huge payoff, and if you just miss barely, then it's potentially, you know, costly, but you have to take the risk sometimes.
When we met for the first time, or I wouldn't say the first time, we were already friends. It's a funny story. Kari, I played with one of Kari's teammates. I didn't play. I coached one of Kari's teammates at Michigan.
Who is that? Who is that?
Her name was Lindsay Maneri or Lindsay Borden. She was on CrossFit Adrenaline. They had a kick-ass team. My team Dynamics and CrossFit Adrenaline a couple of years were battling like for the podium at the games. But anyway, I picked Lindsay. I signed Lindsay. She was the first athlete that we signed for the DC Brawlers in the Grid League. She was the best grid athlete that I had ever been around. She was the bodyweight specialist of the year in 2014, that first year. She was a freaking monster, okay? But anyway, Lindsay introduced Kari to me. When Kari came to New York, it was 2014. Kari was just getting into CrossFit. She'd been doing CrossFit for 3 months. She was like, you got to go see Justin. So Kari came to see me, and I started programming for Kari in 2014.
Wow.
3 weeks after I started programming for her, I still have the fucking email she sent me that said, Justin, I'm so sorry, but the owners of the gym that I work at say that I can't follow your programming. I have to follow their programming or they're going to fire me, because she's working as a coach. So she had to get off of my programming.
That was a CrossFit gym that did that? Which CrossFit gym was that?
I'm not going to
Here, Justin. Normally I wouldn't ask you or put you in that situation, but that's it. I don't know if that's ethically
Dude, that happened a lot. Trust me, back then, especially because they wanted to plug, like they saw that they had a fucking diamond in the rough, right? So they wanted to be like, she's following our programming. You want to be like Kari Pierce? Come in and take class, and you're going to be it. So anyway,
you think that still happens?
I don't. Actually, yes, I think it does still happen. Some places. You're gonna have some gym owners. You're gonna have some. That just can't deal. They're so insecure that they can't, you know what I mean? Like they can't deal with that. But anyway, go ahead. Let me finish. So Kari and I started at that point, but then, she had to stop but we were friends, like for the next couple of years. She would always come out to Dynamics whenever she was prepping for the games, because we had all the fun toys, right? Like we had all the yokes and the this and the that, like, because we had a lot of athletes that were training out of there that went to the games, and we had teams that went to the games, etc. So finally, when she came to me, in 2018, and she was like, "Listen, I want to make a change. I've been wanting to make a change for a while, and I only want you to coach me." And I didn't know if I was going to do it, to be honest with you. I just had our first kid. My wife and I just had our first kid. I was really busy with the gym. We were really busy at the time, and I didn't know if I wanted to. I had been coaching, either teams or individuals a long time, and I really in my head was like, I'm probably going to take the year and not coach anybody, right? But she took me out to dinner. She said, "I want you to coach me." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, what are your goals? What do you want to do?" And she just looked at me right in the fucking eyes and she said, "I want to be the next American woman that makes it on the podium. That's all I want is to make."
This was 2015, you said?
18. This was 18.
Sorry.
Yeah. And right there I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, there's no doubt. Like, I'm doing this, And but that was our goal. Like, that was it. We were going for broke, it was the podium or bust. And she, that year in 19, like if you remember, like her, Jamie Green and Holty were battling for that second and third spot. Like they were battling back and forth. And we were going for it, man. And that's, I will always say, like, I obviously didn't want her to fall, but the conviction, that we had prior to that event. And that was just Kari. Like, she was, it was like, listen, this is what I want from my career. I don't want people to remember me for finishing 4th or 5th. Like, I want to make the fucking podium. That's what I want to do.
Why did she choose you? What did she see, Justin? Like, why didn't she go with one of the name brand? Why didn't she go to the Mayhem Empire or to Comp Train? Or, I mean, there's tons of fucking really good. Granted, I didn't know who you were in 2018. What did you have on your resume? Who did you have? What did you how had you proven yourself already? You had Pamanian in 2010. Like, I could have trained my mom to win the games back then.
For sure. And
that's not a dig, Jessica. I love you, by the way.
No. So, she knew me from coaching. So we had some pretty good teams at Dynamics. And then she knew me very well from the Grid League, which obviously, we were dominant. You know what I mean?
The DC Brawlers, that was the name of your team, and you guys were good, a good team.
We lost one match in 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we won 2 championships. We lost one match in 3 years, and Kari, I think, and I also had Coach Khan at that time.
Okay.
But honestly, I was much more of a team coach at that specific time. But we had just developed this trust that, and she saw kind of how I coached the teams, and especially in grid, and because she played for Boston in the Grid League. So she played a year for the Boston Iron. And then I think we had just developed this friendship. She was really close with my wife. And, I think that mattered to her, that it was somebody that she trusted and someone that she, felt good about as far as just, values and this and that. And I don't know, man, I'm lucky. I will say that. I feel very fortunate about it because, none of this shit would have happened without Kari. There's no doubt about it.
How many years younger is your wife than you?
She's 9 years younger than me.
Do you ever get confused as her father?
No.
No,
not at all.
All right, just checking. In another, I'm a few months away from. Sometimes when I go out, when my beard gets really long, I go out with my mom, and I'm now her husband, and my kids are our grandkids.
Well, my kids are younger than yours, bro. I'm a couple of years younger than you. What are you, 48?
I'm 49.
Yeah, so I'm a couple of years younger than you.
And because of your gray, you probably look a little bit older than you are, especially if someone can't see you move or see your body.
I go really long.
Yeah. And then your wife's like a 10.
Hot too.
Yeah, so it's kind of you're in a weird situation.
And then I got a 5-year-old and
you're a really good looking duck next to a swan.
There you go.
And the duck is just a duck, no matter what.
I'll take it.
Yeah. But there's nice ducks. It's just you'd never be a
nice
swan.
Ducks. Yeah.
You said you were a team coach. It's interesting. You have someone, and this is just my judgment from the outside world. You have someone who's as polished who could be on a Wheaties box like Kari Pierce, and then you have someone who, you wouldn't be surprised if her boyfriend dropped her off with an 81 sticker on his motorcycle and the Hells Angels jacket, Danielle Brandon. at the same gym. And yet it seems like those girls like truly coexist.
Yeah, they do. They coexist well.
Is that you?
Danielle's fucking awesome, man. Happy birthday, D.
Happy birthday, Danielle.
Yeah, it was her birthday yesterday. Is it me? I don't know. I think it's the whole package, man. I think it's the entire environment. I think it's me. I think it's my wife. I think it's my kids. I think it's Kari. I think it's, you know, the whole crew that we have that is extremely, you know, competitive, but at the same time, extremely understanding, you know, of the value that each person brings to the table. You know, and that's not to say that Danielle hasn't had her moments. She'll admit that. I mean, Danielle is volatile. Danielle is emotional. But Danielle is, I will tell you right now, and I have said this since I started working with Danielle, there are two women in the world right now who have absolutely no weaknesses. And Danielle Brandon is one of them. I will say it until I'm blue in the fucking face. Where Danielle needs to catch up, and she knows, you know, is we're still working on leveling out the emotions over a weekend. Danielle can do anything. She's the most talented athlete I've ever worked with. And it's absolutely crazy, you know, to see what she can do in the gym. But, you know, she's, like I said, I mean, you know, she's a roller coaster of emotions. And if we, you know, and it's getting better. I see it. It's getting better. Like once it gets to that point, she is an athlete who can win the CrossFit Games, you know, and I won't say that about a lot of people, but she is an athlete who can win the game. Not saying she will, but she is an athlete who can. And there are not a lot of those that walk into the gym. There are a lot of athletes that you look at, they're like, wow, that athlete's really good, but there are some limitations here. Or there's some limitations here, and there's some things maybe even physically or anatomically we're never going to be able to get to that point. Danielle doesn't have any of those. But man,
is there a hierarchy with the different athletes? And I asked the same question to Ben Bergeron when we had him on. And what I mean by that is there actual positions where you're like, hey, so-and-so is the it person, kind of the leader of the group here during the training days, or is it not talked about? And if it's not talked about, is it happening organically? Do you see that there? And is that something that you're having to curate and manage and constantly make sure that everybody's playing nice?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as far as athletes were concerned, Kari for certain was the leader. Now I think with Kari out of the gym, that, you know, I would probably say I'm the leader now, you know, but I would, you know, Danielle and Bethany certainly are whom everybody, you know, looks up to. And, you know, they haven't been in the gym a ton together until now. Like Bethany's finally back. You know, she, after Waterpalooza, she went to Texas for a little while, went to go see her boyfriend in California. You know, Danielle was gone for a little while, but now they're back in the gym, and you know, I think those two, essentially everybody seems to, you know, look to those two, and obviously, but it's great, man. I'm telling you, it's amazing to see that many competitive athletes in an environment who get along extremely well in the gym and out of the gym. You know, we'll have barbecues over here at the house, and everybody fucking loves each other. You know what I mean? Awesome. It's really cool. Now, that's not to say they don't want to, you know, kick the shit out of each other every day. You know, it gets competitive. No, trust me. Yesterday, Ali Scuds smoked this skill session that we did, and you know, she beat Danielle, and you know, Danielle, you could tell, fucking, you know, her head was about to explode. But I love it. You know what I mean? I love to see that because it's
just a healthy competitive.
And that's not to say Danielle didn't do. She crushed it too. It's just that Ali destroyed it, and it's beautiful to see. They just level up each other all the time. You know, it's a cool thing to see.
I want to go back to what Matt's question is, but I want to say one other thing. I don't know shit about the athletic side, about what you said about her having no weakness and putting her kind of on this tier with Tia, which I promise you that everyone wants to believe. And the reason why everyone wants to believe that, and I'll tell you this, I do know this for a fact, there's very few athletes today that can win the CrossFit Games one time and launch into superstardom. There's very few. I cannot think of any actually off the top of my head. If Danielle Brandon wins the CrossFit, they would need to win it at least 2 or 3 times now. The bar's been set so fucking high. Like no one knows who the fuck Sam Briggs is. Like, let's just face it. She's not on the cover of all these women's fitness magazines and all this shit. You got to win a lot now. If Danielle Brandon wins the CrossFit Games, she's going to fucking launch into the fucking stratosphere like she won it 5 times. It's going to be, she's got it.
I agree.
She's hot. She's fucking built like a fucking centaur with a woman's body on it. It's like, that's the horse thing, right? The centaur. Yeah, she's on a whole. She wins and flips the crowd off with a smile, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take the fucking from you." I mean, like she's fucking. It's fucking Josh Bridges incarnate. It's like the female Josh Bridges. Yeah, it's fucking it's nuts, and she's real as shit. And when we had her on the podcast, she's just like, yeah, I don't trust anyone. You're just like, I mean, it's just like, so kudos to her. I mean, it would be, she also doesn't have to win the CrossFit Games, which a lot of people can't say, and still launch into superstardom. So she has, she's juggling a lot. She's juggling a lot.
Yeah. We've talked about that though. And what I don't want to see, because
it would suck if she went the route. Sorry to interrupt. It would suck if she went the route of the fake titties and the Botox and the lip injection. I would fucking, for me, I mean, I'm just completely selfish. That would bum me out.
No, I don't think she's going to do that.
Right. I don't think so either, but I'm just saying.
What we talk about is,
and I'm not hating on those people. I just don't want to see her do that.
Well, yeah. And we talk about the fact that, hey, D, like, you're now, well, we say you're now a CrossFit celeb, right? Like you've taken off to the next level, and especially from these last games, et cetera. But in 10 years, right, when you look back at your career, what I want is I want you to be a CrossFit celeb because you were on the podium multiple times, not just because you're attractive and you flipped off the crowd and you're you're kind of the bad girl, this and that, and we talk about that because it would be very easy for her to be like, hey, I'm going to do kind of the bare minimum. I'm going to finish between 10th and 20th, stay relevant and finish between 10th and 20th every year. But that's enough that people are still going to see me. I'm going to get a shit ton of sponsors. I'm going to make a shit ton of money because they're going to pay me. But I'll tell you what, like she has the talent to be on that podium perennially. And that's, as a coach, you see that and you're just like, well, let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's all. Like, let's do it. It's not good enough for me that you're a CrossFit celeb. Like, I want it to be performance based, So
I could see her also being like Khalipa and Katrin too, in the sense that I never saw Katrin say no to anyone. Katrin would lose a fucking event and fucking some little kid would wave and she'd fucking go over and sign their shirt. Same with Khalipa, like just endless giving to the crowd. And then when they went away, but they knew that the role was bigger than just performing. When you're out there, like they gave themselves. I love those athletes. By the way, those of you who don't do that, you're going to regret it in hindsight. You are going to regret it when the sun sets on your career, that you didn't go out of your way to see every kid before you walked off this podium, because no one's going to give a shit and you can really affect people. Yeah. Josh too.
She and my daughter are like hilarious. They're so funny. They're good buds, but they're literally like they like clash. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
My daughter's competitive as fuck. She's 5 years old. She's a freak athlete, and so it's cool in the gym because she'll.
Wait, how old's your daughter?
She's 5.
Oh.
And she might be the best athlete in the gym. She's crazy. So anyway, she'll be in there doing some, a front hamstring or, whatever she learned in gymnastics. She'll do, back pull over or this and that. And she'll walk up to Danielle and she'll be like, I can do this and you can't do it. And all of a sudden Danielle's just like, oh yeah, Ivy. And Danielle will go do that shit. And Ivy will be like, oh, and I'm just like, Ivy, don't talk shit. Danielle can do that. It's awesome. So good.
Justin, you said that you were, I think this is a direct quote. I was put on earth to sing.
Oh yeah. Did you? Yeah, that's a previous life now.
But how are you? That's a statement. When's the last time you sung a word
on stage?
Oh, just period. Like, did you sing? Have you sung today?
No, it's very early in the morning, and
He sang happy birthday to Danielle yesterday.
Yeah.
Did you?
Last show that I did was probably 2014, I would say 2014.
And was that at Mar-a-Lago in front of Trump?
That I actually in front of Trump at Mar-a-Lago would have been like 2008, 2009 in that range. And then
I'm just showing off for Brian right now. Brian's like, God,
the last
some
big
cool
one,
shit.
the last like super big event that I did was 20. Actually, was hilarious. You want to hear something funny?
Please.
I was coaching my team, so Team Dynamics 2014 at regionals, Northeast regionals. Saturday night, I was hired by an event band to do the CEO of Reebok's 50th anniversary at their private estate in Cape Cod. We opened for Diana Ross.
Was that Matt O'Toole?
That's awesome.
I don't fucking know. It was a huge estate. I'm not sure it was, but I'll tell you, it was swanky as hell. And what's funny as shit is the swankier it was, the shittier they treated the band. They put us in like, fucking, like, we were in like a fucking dungeon downstairs. All there's 15 musicians, full horn section, 5 singers, like the most kick-ass band you would ever go and see. And they were sitting in a dungeon, right?
And you had to wear a mask. And it was 2014, and they still made you wear a mask.
Yeah, right. No, but that was the last like really big event that I did. Once I started coaching in grid, I just got so fucking busy that I was, and the box was busy, and I was coaching teams, and I was doing this, and I was like, you know what, something's got to give here, and I've had a good run. I did music. No, I was a solo. I was with a band starting in '97, and then a solo artist up until about 2009, and then I was just a hired gun, just doing like big events. But it was. I mean, music. Like I said, music was I was put on earth to sing, but I hate the fucking music industry. It just wore on me. By the time I left the music industry, and that's kind of when I transitioned, over to CrossFit and fitness, because I played college athletics and I was always into sports, but I was so beaten. I was so beaten up. Like I was just by that time, from getting a record deal and then having your shit not do what you thought it was going to do, and then going on tour and having an amazing 6 months, and all of a sudden tour goes bankrupt, and you're like, what the fuck? It was one thing after another. It was just constantly this. And in 2007, I had pretty much the most roller coaster ride I had as a musician, and got really sick at the end of the year and ended up in the hospital. And then, I that's how I got my body back, and my mind really was CrossFit, was functional fitness in general.
What year was that?
So 2007, I have ulcerative colitis that was diagnosed when I was 18 in college. And
what is that? Something's wrong with one of your intestines?
Irritable bowel disease, like Crohn's disease.
I really don't. I mean, I can pretend like I do, but I don't.
Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are irritable bowel diseases. They're random. No one knows. They're autoimmune. They just come. You know what I mean? It's not. Nobody understands why that happens. But anyway, when I was 18 years old, it was my freshman year in college, and all of a sudden I started shitting blood. And I was like, this isn't good. So I went to the doctor. They did a colonoscopy, and I had ulcerative colitis. And I didn't really understand that at the time. It's a pretty debilitating disease for a lot of people. And I generally was in check. I had some flares, but generally in check until right around Thanksgiving 2007. I lost 60 pounds in about 3 weeks. I went from 170. I checked in the hospital. I checked in the hospital at 119.
How tall are you?
Almost 6 feet. Yeah.
You were dying.
Yes, dying. I was dying. Resting heart rate of 110 at that time.
Wow. Holy shit. Were your parents freaking out?
Everybody was freaking out. It was scary, man.
Were you in denial? What happened? What happens? You just stop eating because you shit so much? You're like, fuck, I'm not eating anymore. I'm just gonna stop eating.
You try to eat and you just couldn't keep anything in your system. You're talking about literally you take a sip of water, run to the bathroom.
Wow. Okay. Oh yeah, that's like my life now.
Yeah.
Maybe I have that.
So
it's not like that with food, just water.
So checked into the hospital. Essentially put me on all sorts of meds, and I was sitting in the hospital, kind of just thinking about my life, and I was like, something's got to fucking give here. I'm not happy. I'm really just not happy with where I'm at with music, with the industry, with my management company, with I'm bitter. I've become a bitter artist, like a bitter, tortured artist, man. I was just pissed off all the fucking time, and I was bitter about people who were my contemporaries, who I had sung with in college, and then in Philly, where I had the most fun making music, and now they had gone on to do what I had expected to do, right? Like I sang with John Stevens in college. You know who John Stevens is?
I don't, but
John
I don't know.
Stevens,
I don't know music at all.
John Stevens is John Legend. Do you know who John Legend is?
Yeah.
So John and I sang in college, and we were contemporaries, and we did a lot of stuff inside and outside the studio, and it was kind of both our careers were kind of doing this, right? And then his roommate in college was Kanye West's cousin, and he introduced him to Kanye. He became Kanye's keyboardist, and then his career took off, right? So I was just fucking bitter because I felt like I'm as good as these fucking guys. Why am I not? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, that's the deal, man. Right? Like, not everybody, no matter how good you are, sometimes doesn't fucking matter. Like, some people get there, some people don't. And I had a good career. I had done a lot of cool things, but for me, it was time to make a decision. Am I going to constantly be on this roller coaster ride, or am I going to do something where I can make a difference and not be bitter? And a buddy of mine who was an actor and I started training together to get my body back in 2008. And that,
this is in New York. This is in New York. Okay.
This is in Astoria, New York. And we started following, CrossFit. We started following .com. We started following Jim Jones at the time and doing a lot of stuff like the Mark Twight stuff. And we just, the two of us,
he pissed me off recently.
Yeah. Well, sorry. That was a long time ago. This was 2008. So we started doing that stuff, and then all of a sudden it started to, we were at like I said, we were at this Globo gym, and people started to be like, what is that stuff? And we started coaching this class, and it was called Midnight Madness. People started following it, and I started to find something that I felt like, okay, this is my new stage. Like, this is a way that I can help people. This is a way that I can affect people, where, music can do that. And now I can do that with fitness. And it was just kind of like the snowball started down the mountain. And I was doing both at the time. I was doing music and I was doing fitness. So I would
two jobs that no one ever is successful in: music and fitness. Good job. Your parents must have been really proud.
And I was an Ivy League graduate. I was like, I'm so fucking smart. I became a musician, and then I fucking opened the gym. Thanks. Okay. Let me
take a break here real quick. Are you born and raised in New York?
No, I was born in Miami and raised in Hollywood, Florida. South Florida.
Okay. And so do your parents know you're on this journey? Who's supporting, who's like emotionally, intellectually supporting you through all this? Your parents?
Yeah, my parents were pretty fucking cool, no doubt. I mean, I would say my parents were not extremely pleased at the prospects of me becoming a recording artist until they came to watch me. Well, I was in college. I sang in a group called The Inspiration. It was an R&B a cappella group. I was the only white member of the group. There was like 17 of us.
Token white guy.
Yeah, but I could sing my ass off, and my parents came to watch. And by the end of my time there, I was one of the standout soloists. And my parents came and they were like, "We get it." You know what I mean? Like, we knew you could sing, but we get it. And then I got in this kick-ass band in Philly, and we were really big in Philly at the time, and they would come and see it. They were super proud, but I think they also, towards the end, they could see that I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy. My habits had changed. I was very erratic, drinking too much, and doing stupid shit, and so once I transitioned to fitness, man, it really was almost like a fucking wake up, big wake up, an epiphany, a fucking calling, whatever the fuck you want to say it is. I'm not super religious, so I'm not gonna go down that path. But for me, it really was, where I felt like, okay, like, I've given everything that I have to music, and now I'm ready to give everything that I have to this. And I met my wife, and
wow,
we opened up a gym called Dynamics. And
what year was this?
2000 and end of 2010, beginning of 2011.
Okay, can we hold on there? I want to go back to two things real quick. How did you get out of the hospital at 119 pounds? What did they give you?
No, so I checked in at 119, and the problem was that nothing that they were able to give me at home not over the counter, but prescription meds that I was taking was stopping it. So I had to have massive doses of Solumedrol, which is essentially just injectable corticosteroids. And they did that and I don't know if you know anything about like prednisone that stuff is fucking poison over time. And it's not, these are catabolic steroids. They're not anabolic. They don't build your body up. Right. And they turn you into a fucking lunatic. You get all the side effects of roid rage. You get all that other stuff. Like you get incredibly erratic thoughts. And when I say that, like you've got to, every part of your being when you're on them for a long period of time, especially at high doses, you've got to think about not hurting people.
Wow.
Like that's kind of where I was. And also just mad about, being sick and all that shit. So anyway, they gave me that. And then then once you get out of the hospital, you're no longer on the intravenous. So you got to take high doses of prednisone. And then they weaned me off of that over time. But eventually I got it. There are some drugs they call biologics. Like if you've probably seen the ads on TV, like Humira, different injectables at home, and those basically changed my life. Like I take one injectable every 2 weeks, and it stopped me from having flares for the last 10 years. So it's been pretty amazing. And then I'm obviously extremely diligent about I don't do a lot of things that are, like I don't drink a lot. I don't do drugs and stuff. And that was stuff I was getting into obviously at that time. And so, there's some stuff that I do that, take care of your body more. Now I have 2 kids, so I don't get a ton of sleep. So I can't say that I get a ton of sleep, but my wife is the rock star there. Honestly, she's, there's none of this shit would get done without her. I mean, she's the locomotion. She's the she really runs the shit. I'm more the visionary, and she's got to rein me back in. You know what I mean? But anyway,
so you were in the hospital and you were sick, and they gave you some drugs. There was no whatever it was, these predisones, these catabolic steroids. They weren't going to cure you. They were just a Band-Aid, but actually they were going to drive you crazy. And thank God you found this other solution. That's this other treatment called biologic. Do the girls, and this, I got distracted by your eyebrows. Sorry, this is just a little detour. Do the girls at the gym admire your eyebrows and talk about your eyebrows a lot?
No.
Do you do anything to those?
Just occasional maintenance, maybe trim them up a little bit, but no waxing or anything like that.
Man, they don't look, they're so perfect.
Oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell me about this band where it's all black dudes and you. How did you get on?
Oh, well, men and women. It was
how do you get on that? And did you have hair then?
No. So I started shaving. I did have hair. I actually still do have hair. I've been shaving my head since my sophomore year in college. I had a full head of hair. I just liked the way it looked. I was like, okay, yeah. So it
does look good.
Thanks, bro. So when I went and I saw this group. There was a girl I was dating at the time in college, and thanks, Eric. Some guy just said I'm a handsome guy. I appreciate that. I was in college and I was playing sports and I was doing this, I was doing that. And a girl I was dating was on this was on a dance, a dance. She's in a dance company at Penn. And I went and they did this show with this other campus sponsored or school sponsored group. And it was this group called The Inspiration. And The Inspiration was an R&B gospel group. And I watched it and I was like, this is exactly what I do. This is exactly what I sing, I should be in this. I should be in this group. And I went to an audition and, it was an open audition for anyone at campus who was interested in joining the group. And there were a couple callbacks you had to go to. And, and I remember it was funny. They come to your door. If you get in, they came to your door and they had this, one of the guys from the group knocks on the door and he's like, listen, man, he's like, we were really close, but at the end of the day, man, we just weren't going to take any white people. They came and they said that. And then, of course, the whole group jumps out and they're like, fuck you, you're in, like that thing. And it was cool, man. It was like, I was like
a little humor around racism, racism.
It was funny, and I was, it was cool, man. It was cool.
How many other white guys tried out?
At the year that I tried out, there was another guy who was great. There was another white guy. There was a guy who was an Indian guy.
Indian dude?
Yeah, really great singer.
Like Dot, not Feather? How are you doing? My parents came from India, Mumbai, yes. And I am here to try out for your
incredible singer. But like Indian American guy. Yeah.
They're all just Indians to me. Wow. That's amazing. God, Indian people can fucking do anything.
By the time at the end, there were 4 of us that were still there. 1 black dude, 1 white dude, 2 white dudes, and an Indian dude. And then I got the nod. So it was pretty cool, man. And there were about 16 or 17 of us. It was co-ed, and we did, basically the mission statement was essentially like they were trying to bring, essentially black artists, so we only did music that was either, produced, written, composed, or performed by black artists. So we did everything from gospel to R&B,
But you didn't have to be black to be in it. I wonder, were you the first white dude in that band?
There was one guy prior to there was one dude, his name was Josh, prior to me getting in the group. Yeah. But it was awesome, dude. It was
awesome.
A blast. I had a great time, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, my college experience was amazing. It was great. Athletics and arts and I was an English major, so I was cool with the kind of the whole English side, history, philosophy. Like, it was just a blast. And then I left school and I was either going to turn pro in golf or be a singer, but I was a better singer, so I went that route.
Yeah, hold that thought about golf for a second. The only way I can relate to this,
Brian's like me. You're overstimulating us, Justin.
The only way I can relate to this, and I know there's people that hate them as well, but the Dave Matthews Band is one of my favorite bands. I've been to like 42 concerts of theirs, I think.
Wow.
Are they white or black?
Well, that's the thing. In early '90s in Virginia, Dave was this guy from South Africa, and he's playing at a local bar, and next thing you know, he starts playing with this group of guys, and it was like a crazy collection of guys. The bassist was white, and he was 15 or 16 years old when they started, and he's still with the band. Wow. And then it was 3 black guys: drummer, violinist, Carter Beauford. Yeah, is insane. The violinist, which is super rare to have a violinist in this kind of band in general, also black, and then Leroy Moore, who passed away in 2008, but was the horns player. And those 5 guys stayed together: 2 white guys, 1 young kid, and 3 black guys. They stayed together until the one guy passed away in 2008, and 3 of them are still with the band now.
Until the George Floyd incident, then they all broke up.
Honestly, it's something similar to that caused the violinist to separate from the band. But it's just cool to hear that that kind of thing was happening in your life too, where it wasn't an issue, even though at that time in the early 90s and late 80s, like, racism was still a prevalent thing and still is in some parts of the South. So I always had that kind of separate appreciation for them.
Not just the South. California is built on racism. California is you want to see the most racist place on the planet? Come to Berkeley, California.
I joined the group in 95, so 95, 96. But I remember, Dave Matthews was just getting fucking huge at that time. They were starting to get huge. But it was interesting. I don't know, man. Like, I grew up, my mom will tell you a story about when I was 3 years old. She just still remembers, driving a car and me singing, Stevie Wonder, in perfect pitch back in fucking when I was 3. And she was always like, her favorite band was the Doobie Brothers. So Michael McDonald, if you know anything about music, Michael McDonald, that's Blue-Eyed Soul. You can't get more fucking soulful than that dude. So I grew up listening to, kind of like who I call like the Holy Trinity, which was, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway. Like, those were my inspirations. And then my contemporaries, were Maxwell, D'Angelo, neo soul, like Jill Scott, Indy Iree, who apparently has caused a lot of a lot of shit this week with Joe Rogan, so I didn't realize.
She's a kook. She's a
yeah.
kook.
But she was great. Listen, her first album was the shit. Okay, back in 1999.
Yeah, Milli Vanilli were fucking amazing too. They even though they didn't sing, their shit was amazing. Those fuckers got canceled, and it wasn't like, who cares who's singing it? What do I care?
Funny.
It's crazy that a band could be canceled because they're not the real singers, but the music was fucking amazing, and their dance moves and their hair. When you were, do you think that there's something your mom said that when she would hear you sing that nurtured that ability? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she rewarded you with a certain smile, and you're like, let's say you really weren't born to sing, and she heard something come out of you, and she smiled, and then she nodded, and then you started chasing this acceptance like we all do, and this love for our parents because it's survival, right? And like, do you think you could write a book about that so the rest of us parents could like mimic what your mom did that made that seed in you just fucking, because you're still so confident about your voice, obviously. I mean, you talk about,
let me ask you a question. Yeah. Let me ask you a question, because I think that we gravitate towards the things that we're good at, right? Like, if you're really fucking fast, like you're just faster than anybody else, right?
Then you like to play tag at lunchtime every day.
And then you realize you're faster than everybody else.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I'm good at this, and I'm getting rewarded for it because I'm really good at it. Maybe this is something I should do. Right. Well, I could just sing. Like, I don't know, it was just one of those things. Like, you can jump high, you can run fast, you're really fucking smart. Like, and obviously you can get better at those things. But at the end of the day, I always say to people, like, how did you learn how to sing? I didn't learn how to sing. It wasn't a learn how to sing. How did you learn how to be fast? Like, generally speaking, the people who are fast, they just are faster at in the playground when they're 5 years old. Like, they're faster, I don't know. I could just sing. And it was definitely parents, but I think it was everybody. Like, when I was a little kid, I would get up, and I wasn't afraid to get up and sing in front of people, and I would get accolades for that. And I feel like it was the same way in athletics. Like, I would, on the playground, or as I got older, during gym class, like, I was just better than you were at basketball. Like, that was the way it was. And so, I continued to play, and then I eventually was recruited to play in college. And then you go to college, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm hot shit. And then there's a bunch of people better than you. And then you're like, I'm not hot shit anymore. It's like, you just keep going till you get to that point where you're like, how good can I be at something? And for me, like, singing wise or music wise, it was just something that always felt right and felt good, until it didn't anymore. That was just kind of the way it was. And that's kind of when fitness took over at that time.
For those of you who don't know, this is Justin Cotler, who's on with Brian and Matt Souza and myself. He is a coach and owner of Underdogs Athletics out of Las Vegas. He's recently just popped up on my radar, and he's just one of those people who's becoming very successful that, like, from my perspective, is overnight success. But as soon as you scratch the surface, just barely, you realize there is absolutely zero overnight success here. The overnight success that we witness is just athletes from all over the world are contacting him, coming out of the woodwork, and it's a really broad, a wide variety of people he's training, and it's a cool band, man. These people can do it all, boys, girls, all from different countries, places, attitudes, upbringings. There's a and now, so there's a lot of curious on who Justin is and why these people are coming out to Vegas to train with him. It's a crazy, and he's done it all in the space. And by all in the space, at the top of this space is basically things like CrossFit, the grid. I mean, in this competition space, and then this other thing that is it called IF3? What is it called again?
Yeah, IF3, International Functional Fitness.
And you're involved in that also, right?
Yeah, I'm the head coach of Team USA. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
The USAFF, which is how I met Maddie DeLugos, and also, like, do you know Gretchen Kittleberger?
I do know. She used to work at CrossFit.
Yeah, so Gretchen.
I did a photo shoot with Gretchen at Greg Glassman's house once. she was doing all these cool jumps and shit, and I was taking
Yeah,
pictures
she's
of them. I
amazing.
wonder what happened to those pictures.
Gretchen is the president of the IF3, but Gretchen, I got to know Gretchen pretty well. When she came and she tried out for Grid back in 2014. And
Is she
we
pretty
stayed in
reserved?
touch. Yeah, she's very reserved. I would say
Yeah.
Gretchen is just a very classy person. That's how I would that's how kind of what I would say about her, characterize her as a very classy person.
Okay.
But Gretchen, yeah, she had this idea, and she was like, "Listen, I'm interested in, CrossFit can't be in the Olympics because CrossFit is private, right? It's privately owned. It's a brand. It needs to be a nonprofit." So she decided, hey, I think that this has legs. I'd be interested in trying to do it. And I think she's doing very well. I don't know if it'll make it to the Olympics. It's really fucking hard, man. The hoops you got to jump through. It's really a challenge. It's so political. It's such bullshit.
Yeah, I don't respect them as an organization at all.
It's really, it's crazy. Like, I know some of the stuff, I kind of try to stay in my lane, and I'm just a coach, and, but what she's dealing with, I know, and then she'll, apply to get this, and it takes 2 years, and you've got to, you've got so many people coming out of the woodworks with dissension, and it's really bullshit. But I think she's doing extremely well. And you look at the people who competed and who have competed over the last few years. I mean, Holty just won individually, at the IF3 championship this past year. It's taken a hit from COVID, just like everything else. But yeah, I mean, and the USAFF has been cool. I've met some really cool people, and had a lot of fun, going over. Went to London, went to Sweden, so we've gotten to go to some cool places and compete at the IF3 World Championships. But from that, I've coached some really great athletes, and then obviously one of those athletes has come and moved to Vegas, in Matt DeLugos, who's now part of, essentially part of our family, so it's been great. But yeah, the IF3 is cool, man. It's fun. Anything that gives athletes opportunities, Savon, man. I've always been a part of anything that gives athletes opportunities. It's why I got into CrossFit, was to help people. And then when I started coaching athletes, was to give athletes opportunities to help them reach their maximum potential. Then in Grid, it was like, well, these athletes can make more money. Fuck yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? Or, IF3, more opportunities. Wherever we can give athletes opportunities to be athletes, man.
What's cool to hear you say that is that's what Greg would always tell us, that business is about giving people opportunities. And I remember when he went and spoke at Harvard, he gave them a definition of business that was so different than their definition of business. And it was so cool to see him be in this room full of these Harvard MBAs and kind of just fuck them up, right? Like, it's about other people. It's about giving other people unique opportunities. He had a great definition of business. He gave them one. They don't even have a legitimate one. Anyway, yeah, that's cool. And your message is consistent like that in all the podcasts I've heard you do. You're about giving athletes opportunities, even though I don't agree with some of the ones you're suggesting.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Matt, that picture you just pulled up, there's so much good looking in that picture. It's really,
is awesome.
It's just oozing from that picture. It's hard to look at without turning your eyes. They're just
good. That's gonna be a clickbait. That's gonna be a
so
clickbait
much good
thumbnail.
looking in that picture. Oh my god.
Justin, this past several months, I feel like you've your like next pursuit has been to kind of assemble a team of coaches around you for Underdogs.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, for sure. It started with Tommy Hackenbrook.
That's cool.
Yeah, so Tommy's one of our guys, and then we put together a really strong group. Casey Aker, who won the CrossFit Games upper extremity.
Isn't it Acre? Is it Aker?
He says Casey Aker. Yeah,
really?
It's spelled Acre. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good to know. I always like to try to get the names right if I can.
Yeah. Colette Casey, who's I think she's going to make the games 35 to 39 this year. She just won Wadapalooza, but she's
very competitive division.
Oh yeah, but she's a fucking monster. Just wait. She's going
to
be right
there. Say her name again.
Her name is Colette Casey.
Okay.
She came in 21st, less than a year after having a kid last year. And this year she just went down and smoked Wadapalooza in that division, and she's going to be, listen, it's top 10. It's really, really hard.
I'm not happy about that.
No, you and me
because
both.
if you anyone who thinks that thinks that's a good decision, please go back and find an article that Chad Schrader wrote when they first changed it to 10, because And I know they've added another step to the season this year with the semifinals, but it's not a live competition and it's not the same thing. And there is historically a lot of athletes that finish 11th through 20th in their respective masters divisions that are not just top 10 threats, top 5 threats, that are podium finishers and occasionally winners of their division that we're not going to get to see compete this year because they're not good in the online formats. They can get in 20, but the difference between 20 and 10 is a lot.
Amen, dude. I agree 100% with that. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, getting back to the coaches, Tommy, Colette, Casey, Connor Martin running our team. You know the Martin family, Savon.
Yes.
And yeah, they Brand X method. So Connor came on board and is
wow,
running. Yeah, they're running our team. And then and I'm about to do we're about to do a team program. So we've got.
Have you known them forever? By the way, the Martins. They've been around forever.
I've known of them forever,
right.
And I had Connor reach out to me, and about 6 months ago, Connor reached out and he said, "Hey, listen, we really like what you're doing with Underdogs, and we're looking for a home for us to be able to bring our teen program." And I was like, "Fuck, okay, that's great. You guys have more experience than anybody else."
Mickey and Jeff, they raised some incredible kids.
Yeah.
Those might be like parents of the century kind of parents. Mickey and Jeff, those kids are nuts. Those are special kids. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So we're yeah, man. And then Brian, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I kind of look at myself as like I'm the general manager. I'm the project. I want to bring in people who are better than me, right? Like I want people who can just keep leveling. Like one of my right hand guys is a guy by the name of Kiefer Lamy. He's the head programmer at Invictus Boston. He had his own program called Stronger by Design. The guy's fucking smart, and I love bringing in people who are super smart. Who I feel can bring something to the table that I feel like I'm a really good generalist, but if I can bring people who are better at specific things and constantly just level up and bring more and more value to the athletes, that's great. We have a guy now who just took over our business operations. Who's great, Jared Graybeal. He runs the Zalos games.
He was on this show, I think.
Yep.
He's like a really religious guy, right?
He is religious.
Yes.
Yeah. He did. He said you guys talked a lot about religion. But Jared, beyond being very religious, is also just really smart and guys who I think can help drive the brand, while I can really focus on coaching and giving the athletes what they need, especially the Danielles, the Bethany's, the Rickies, the Matts, etc. So
he has a lot of life experience too. I didn't mean
he does.
The Zealous guy. Yeah. There's a lot there to that gentleman. And so are all these people moving out to Vegas? What about you mentioned this guy, Keither Lamy? How does that work that he's the head programmer at Invictus Boston, but he's also working with you?
Yeah. So he gets a lot of he works for us. He does some stuff with Black Iron training. I think he runs the nutrition there, which is out of Reno. And he's coming out here next week. But Kiefer, he's kind of a jack of all trades, but just a really smart dude.
You guys don't have an issue there? Like, so
no?
And I'm not trying to create an issue, but so let's say he does a program for Invictus Boston. Like someone goes to Invictus Boston and they're like, "Oh shit, that's the same programming we have over here at."
So he doesn't program for like the Invictus brand online, right? Like he's not. So there's no, we're not fighting each other there,
Yeah.
So he they kind of do their own thing. They're not essentially like they have that name, but they're not, they do their own programming. That's not like the Invictus online program. It's different. You know what I mean? and he's not doing that. So that, we're not fighting each other there.
Do you guys see how good this is for Underdogs athletics? Justin doesn't avoid saying that Kiefer Lamy works over at Boston Invictus. He opens with that. I don't hide the fact that Brian is a reporter at the Morning Chalk Up or for the China Morning Star, or that a frequent guest on Talking Elite Fitness, or that or that he works at the Wadapalooza or as an analyst or at the CrossFit Games. I open with that. We want to work with other people. I want the black belt who teaches at my kid's gym also to teach at another gym. Thank you, baby. And cultivate as much shit as they can. Do you guys see that? How rising tides raise all ships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's maturity and it's true growth. I just really like that. You've said that in 2 other podcasts about this guy, and I'm like, yeah. Of course he's proud. Invictus is a fucking epic fucking brand in the space. The pedigree that's come out of Invictus is insane. Of course, Underdogs Athletics wants to brag that they got a dude who's straddling.
And listen, dude, I mean, for me, it's about listen, it's not about my ego. It's never been about me. It's always been about.
No, it's about making fucking money.
It's and doing what's and helping these athletes reach their potential, man.
Right.
I mean, that's that's what they hired me to do. Like my job is to get you is to get as many people on the podium as I can, And right. So if I'm gonna, if I can bring in other people that can help me and some of them that do shit better, well, fuck, who am I? I can't. I mean, I just feel like it's got to be selfless, man. You got to be selfless.
You're cultivating a band.
Absolutely.
You're cultivating a band, right? You're bringing in all the best talent from everything that could do, because in that way, when you guys all get together, it makes beautiful music, right?
100%.
What if there was a news network like that? Like you had like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, NPR, all the people from all the Breitbart, they had them all just a channel where they all came there and reported there.
It'd be cool, wouldn't it?
The Savant Network.
It'd be cool shit. You said something about not about when you're good at something. What do you think about the fact that how great that you were saying that if you're good at running, then and you get rewarded for it, you'll keep wanting to play tag or hide and seek or track, or those will be the things that attract you. So what does that say about someone like Matt Fraser, who shows up at the games? Brian, didn't he take last at a running event one year and then come back and win it the next year, take second to last, in a sprint? And then, I mean, what does that say about someone like him? Is that just is he just mind boggling that he can go in the lab? I mean, I think his stories is that he joined a high school fucking track team.
Yeah. High school.
And he was a weightlifter.
Let the seniors just beat the fuck out of him for each season. I mean, the humility. I mean, what's that say? The guy's not a fucking runner. He goes and he joins a high school track team in the off season, and the next year comes back to the games and wins and takes first or second in the run events.
I mean, we're talking about, once in a generation. I mean,
he's an anomaly.
That's an anomaly. I mean, that guy's but what I love about
it's one thing to fix a rope climb like Rich did. Not take anything away from Rich. I think he's fucking a god. But to fix your running, that would be like Vellner coming back and fixing his swimming, taking top 5 in the swimming. We would all be like, what the fuck?
Year.
Steroids can't even do that for him, right?
Yeah. Nope.
You know what I think about Matt, though, and I think you see this with a lot of champions, is that Matt essentially just got to the point where he refused not to be the best. You refuse. Mm-hmm. Fuck that. There's no, I'm asleep in my parents' fucking basement. I'm going to wake up. This is what I'm doing. I'm eating CrossFit for breakfast. I'm eating it for lunch. I'm eating it for dinner. I go to sleep. I wake up every fucking day. That's what I do. Rinse, repeat, the same shit. Yeah. I refuse to let somebody beat me at this. And by the end, he was winning every event. I mean,
he's focused on outcome, not on image. He's not worried about.
That's how I feel about this podcast. That's how I feel about the podcast space, motherfuckers. You better watch it.
And that's. I mean, I respect the shit out of it, but there's very few people who can do that. I mean, very few. Honestly,
that specific thing you're asking about, Sevan, Hinshaw has talked about it before. Is that he didn't actually get any faster, but he was able to recover faster than the other people from the previous events, and so his relative running was better than theirs, and that workout in that setting. But where I do think that his running, where you saw his running improve, was when he just literally crushed the field in the trail run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that the one that 1 year where they made them they
took him to the ranch unannounced? No. This was 2016. It was way before that. They took him to the ranch. They did the trail run, and everyone. I mean, it was. You couldn't go there live and watch. It was on YouTube, but basically the people commentating on it were like, "Here's Bridges in the lead," and then someone was like, "No, Bridges isn't in the lead, dude. Fraser came by like 45 seconds ago."
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's crazy to see. So I saw Fraser back in the Northeast Regional for the first time. It was 2013.
Yeah, there was an outdoor one year.
Yeah, and he came in 6th. But we all knew very quickly that year. It was like he came out of nowhere. I mean, this guy came from nothing. He was at Champlain Valley, and they had historically pumped out some really good athletes. And he came out and just annihilated the overhead squat event with so much flair. Like, you know, essentially, I mean, he just crushed everybody. And then he was also like sticking the knife in, where he would like hit the lift and then just kind of look around. Yeah. And you were like, immediately you were like, oh, this guy's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I don't think any of us thought at all that he was going to dominate the sport the way that he did. I just, you know, but you could tell he was pretty special, and he had a lot of the attributes that you need physically to be special. But
yeah, I think Rudy Nielsen, I don't know if you guys remember him from the Outlaw way back in the day. Yeah. And one of the theories that he had was the higher your snatch was and the lower your body weight, the more likely you were to be CrossFit Games champion. And I remember there was this video of Matt Fraser, I think, snatching 315 with like his shoes untied at Champaign Valley CrossFit. And I think he was one of the first people that posted that up and did this whole analysis as to why this guy was going to be champion.
Interesting. I actually would I would alter that a little bit, and I would say that it's actually overhead squat, even more than snatch. And I always say that I feel like overhead squat translates the most to, and it's not a surprise that, you know, Rich Froning and Matt Fraser had elite overhead squats because they were perfect machines to be able to be able to execute an overhead squat at a really high level. Everything has to work in synchronization. Everything has to be perfect. You can't have a weakness. It's the one lift that will fucking expose you more than anything else. And I always felt like that was, so I'm not saying Rudy's wrong, because obviously snatch incorporates, but I think even more so than that, the overhead squat. And if you look back historically, like, at what
Tommy Hackenbrook.
To your point, Justin, I remember Greg used to set up, I think it was Nicole Carroll at the level ones early days, and they would say,
body weight.
Here's a 95-pound or whatever it was. And then you would have these massive UFC fighters, Navy SEALs, and they would just pick the bar up, no problem. And she would just start repping it out, and they couldn't. You would start to see them get through, like muscle through maybe 2 or 3 of them because the bar was light enough for them to do that. And then it would just break down, and she would still just be chipping away at it. So that's actually, that further validates the point that you made there. That's awesome.
Yeah. About being that perfect machine. But that's when I remember seeing Matt for the first time and just being like, oh, he's going to be a force to reckon with. And I don't think we knew, you know, obviously at that time, but then I got to see him over the summer before the next season, where he came in second. And I got to see him at an event called Beast of the East. And he just dominated everybody. And there were some good athletes there. Christian Harris at the time, who was, you know, I love Christian, and Christian at the time was, you know, really at the peak of his individual form. And man, Matt just did what he wanted. He just kind of toyed with everybody. And then obviously he went to the games, finished second to Rich, then had kind of a brain meltdown and finished second to Ben, and then dominated for the next several years. So the guy's a monster.
Him and Tia have pushed into this really, you said a word like into the unknown. I don't know. You just said something that kind of labeled, like, no one knows what they're going to do. No one knows what they're capable of. Like they're in complete control of the narrative. Like it's.
And then when they started training together, oh my God, you know, so you just put 2 superhumans in the same room, and they just, you know, so they're just beating each other up every single day. And you go to the games and it's like, well, these fucking people aren't as good as who I've been training with. And I'm just, I mean, I think it's cool in the sense that like, there's probably no underdogs, or probably none of, you see a lot of these camps that kind of stemmed from that, where it was like, okay, you had a lot of people who were training by themselves, and all of a sudden you put the two best people in a room, they're leveling each other up all the time. And now it's become like, well, for most people, if you're not doing that at some point, it's hard for you to really get to that next level. And it's not always the case. Obviously, see Justin, right? But in general, there are a lot of athletes who I think have really kind of taken that model and are getting better and better, because of it. And
I have a little theory about this, is that you need the time alone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at all those people before they were training in a group setting, they had what I think is they developed the mental toughness to say, I don't care who's here or if no one's here. I don't care what temperature it is or what music's playing or whatever. I'm going to go in my garage, my barn, my gym when no one's there, and I'm going to get my training in. And you have to build that up over time. And then if you've done that foundation, then it doesn't matter. You can be thrown into an environment like an Underdogs or a Proven, or even if it's just a couple athletes here and there, you can go on the road and train with people as long as you have that base.
I like it. Yeah, and I agree with that. And you see a lot of the athletes who had already kind of developed, a pretty high level of fitness, who have then been able to take it to the next level, So yeah, man, it's been cool. But yeah, I agree with you about Frazier. I just think that, like I said, you just get to that point where you're already like a machine, you've got it inside of you, but then you put that with that mental fortitude and just that refusal to lose. I mean, it's very rare that you see people who are just not obsessed and dedicated,
Justin, what is from 2009 or 2010? What is the journey of your confidence as a coach in the waning and waxing of confidence? And if that's not even a way you want to think about it, don't let me pigeonhole you. If you're like, hey, I never think of my coach as being confident or unconfident, I think of my coaching as an evolution. Or tell me about just the change. But does it change? And this stems from a thought of like, man, you are like fine tuning Ferraris all day. Yeah. And like, I would just be I personally just find it, I don't see anywhere like where I would be, I don't see any aspect in my life where I'm confident enough to fine tune a Ferrari.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good question. Over the years, listen, when we first started out, I'll look back, I'll look back at some of the programming and some of the shit that we did. And I was like, oh God, that, fuck, that's criminal, like, that's just like, we shouldn't have done that. But I think
volume or just
oh
like,
my God, yeah, volume and workouts, like some shit. Like, oh my God, that's just that's terrifying.
I'm permanently injured from ideas like that. By the way,
irresponsible.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think you learn that, right? Like as you go and it's just, there's a lot of it's trial and error, and then a lot of there's no substitute for experience. So really, like experiencing that over the years, like what works, what doesn't. But I feel like the most confidence, like the biggest confidence booster, I would say, came between like 2013 and 2016, coaching a couple teams that finished top 5 at the games, coaching grid, a few teams that won championships and dominated the grid league with a ton of fucking great athletes. Go back and look at who competed in grid. And it's scary how good those athletes were. I will still say the best group of athletes that I've ever seen in one place was the 2014 Combine for Grid, which was out here in Vegas. It was the best collection of athletes, not the best collection of CrossFitters. It was the best collection of athletes that I've ever been around. Right?
I always get so defensive when you talk about how great the grid athletes are. Get so defensive inside. I'm ready. I want to go outside and just like throw a temper tantrum. I mean, I have no premise. It's pure ego. It's like,
who was on New York the first year?
I don't know. No, I don't know. We weren't allowed. I wasn't allowed to know. I wasn't allowed to know.
Annie Thorsdottir.
Well, even in the other podcast, you guys were basically saying like, hey, just because you're a great CrossFitter does not mean you'll be a great athlete. And you guys were talking about just some of the just insane shit that you guys would see at Grid.
That's super. Just the craziest shit you've ever seen.
And I know you guys are telling the truth. That's why I get defensive.
Remind me about Grid, because I wanted to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
But anyway, that was the time when I felt like, man, like I feel really good about my ability.
Yes, we should do a whole show where we just talk about Tony Buddy. Okay, probably
that's
shouldn't
exactly
record
what I was going to ask you. Fuck, you read my mind. And that's hilarious, man. That's so funny.
I have no mind. I just use your mind. Go ahead. Okay, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Plucked it from my brain. I was going to be like, so tell me about Tony, because I want to know. So yeah, I felt like I really developed like the confidence I felt like I was able to get the most out of my athletes, in really high pressure situations during that specific time. It didn't have to do with programming. It was more about on game day. Are you able to read a situation? Are you able to get the most out of your athlete in really high stress, high pressure situations? And I felt like during that time that I was able to, time and time again, when put in those spots, to be able to get athletes to be able to perform at their optimum level. And once I did that, I felt like, you know what? I feel really confident now that in any situation that I'm going to be able to do that. Listen, there are a lot of fucking guys who can program. I feel like there's a lot of very good, there's a lot of people who understand how to program. There's a lot of, but I felt like there weren't a lot of great coaches on game day, who were able to motivate, say the things that were necessary at a specific time, be able to motivate at a specific time to get somebody to be able to rise to the level that they want to be able to rise to. And I still feel like that's a very underrated quality for a coach. And it's still my favorite part of being in this game. Like programming.
What do you call that quality? What do you call that quality?
Well, I think there's a level of discernment of knowing what to say and what not to say. And that there might be something that this athlete needs to hear, but not right now. And to be able to just file that away for post-competition and, build them up.
And more so than that, there's something that this athlete needs you to say. But if you say that to this athlete, you are going to totally crush their whole fucking weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it's understanding personalities and being able to understand, like, what does this person need at this specific time? And if you can't read that situation, if you treat everybody the same, then you suck as a coach. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry. That's just the way it is, and that's kind of like, I feel like that's been one of my strengths. And I also feel like it's a strength of my wife. I feel like she's amazing at it, and she's also there, like, in the trenches a lot of the time doing that stuff. Like that, it's not a coincidence if you look at last year's quarterfinals that my wife coached or judged. I would say judge, coach. During quarterfinals, you're kind of coaching and judging at the same time, even though they say you're not supposed to. You really are. She judged 2 event wins, like in the world. She coached 2 of those wins, or judged 2 of those wins. Wow. It's not 2 out of 5, right? She judged 2 out of 5. We had 3 out of 5 in the same gym, right? And now, obviously, that has to do with talent, but it also has to do with knowing how to motivate and knowing how to get the most out of somebody at a specific moment. And I feel like that's really something that we don't talk about a lot in this sport. We always talk about programming, which is very important. But it's also about, like, you could program the same, you could have 5 different programs. They're all excellent programs. How do you get the best out of that athlete on game day? Like, how do you do that? Right. And I feel like we don't talk about that a lot. I think that's undervalued.
And personally, I think that the ability to do that is set up day after day after day with the relationship building, the conversations in and out of the gym, and the trust of the athlete.
Thank you. Yeah. Trust. Yeah. Yep. Trust is fucking huge, and it takes some athletes a lot longer than others. Like you talk about with Danielle, like how she doesn't trust anybody. And I would now challenge that and say that as much as Danielle can trust someone, I feel like she trusts me and my wife now. From
my computer screen, I feel like I see that between you and her, by the way, too. It's crazy because we did this interview with her, and then it was like it's probably been a year since I had her on and did that full length interview. And since then, what I've seen between the two of you through my computer screen and my TV set seems to be like, oh shit, she does. I'm like, there's some contradictions in the person I interviewed and what I see her having an exchange with Justin Cotler. So I agree with you. It does look like that, even from, thousands of miles away. There was this thing that I had a UFC fighter on the other day, or I heard someone else interviewing a UFC fighter. I can't remember where I heard this, but basically you can have if you don't have metabolic conditioning when you get into that ring, you will not get it through mental preparedness. You cannot. You must train metabolic conditioning first, but you can lose it in the ring with poor mental conditioning. So you have two guys who are, let's say, a 10 in their metabolic conditioning, but one of them's mental game is good and one of them is bad. And the guy whose mental conditioning is bad will expend. Basically, he will frivolously lose his metabolic conditioning through his bad mental preparation. So although mental preparation won't take, like, mental preparation taking to the next level is for already people who have all the fundamentals. And I think that's what you were saying. Like, hey, and that's where you're saying as a coach now, like, hey, a lot of us can do the stuff to get you physically prepared. And now it's the part to, like, execution, mental, physical.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. And I agree with that. I mean, you can't listen, if your fitness is not there and you go into a competition, you're going to be exposed, right? I mean, and engines win championships. So I agree with what, with what he said. But, you take a look at a lot of athletes who, when they get to the games, right, physically, very just minor. I mean, 0.001% differences on specific movements. And why are you able to rise, to the next level? There's somebody like Kari who, just mentally was able to do that. But there were specific moments, that, when I like to tell the story about when Kari fell off the rings, right? And she knew at that point in time that the podium was not going to happen, right? She had dropped now, I think she was in 4th or 3rd going into that event. She dropped down to 7th. And we knew. And it was the one time that I had seen Kari be even remotely mentally defeated. We were sitting in the bowels of the Coliseum, right? We're sitting down there at the bottom. And Kari was just one of those people that never got too high or too low emotionally. And I could see that she was crying. And it was, it's very strange to see that from someone who you never see that from, who's not emotional in practice, who hasn't been emotional in competition. And you see her crying because it was the time that she realized, like, I'm not going to make the podium. And I was so fucking close to making the podium. It was right before the event, The Standard. Do you remember the event, The Standard? Which was 30 clean and jerks. It was Grace, 30 muscle ups, Isabel, right? And I was sitting down there and it was that time as a coach where you're just like, what the fuck am I going to say? Like, what am I going to do here? Because she's got to go out there. She's not at 100% physically. She just fucking, got the wind knocked out of her. If you saw her in that, in an event where she would normally crush in burpees and overhead squats, which are great movements for her. And she was, she looked like she had just been hit by Mike Tyson. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so we're sitting down there and I'm thinking of what the hell can I say? And I look at the leaderboard and I see that if she beats Haley and she beats Amanda Barnard, she will catapult above them and be the best American female that year, right? So I looked at her and I said, I know you're hurting right now. I said, but I know how important the title of top American female is for you. If you go out there and you beat Haley and you beat Amanda, you're going to catapult to 5th. And you're going to now be again for the, 3rd year in a row or 2nd year, 3rd out of the last 4 years, you're going to be the top American female. And it was like at that moment, tears were gone. The fucking competitor came back that drive. And it was like laser focus. She went out. She did exactly what she needed to do. And she catapulted to 5th and finished as top American female.
Very good trivia question. Between 2016 and 2020, only one American woman beat Kari Pierce at the games. Justin probably knows, but I don't think a lot of people would know.
I know, but do you guys know?
I don't.
Danielle.
Oh, fuck. What happened to her? Man, she was a savage.
Yeah.
Oh, she was something special. That was I'm going to say this in the most loving way possible. By no means did she. There are some women in who are like men, not because of the way they look, not because they just have a fucking like a cowboy swagger to them. That girl, and it's not to detract from her attractiveness. I found her super special, Tennille. That was a dude. That I think maybe I interviewed her once, and she had like 4 brothers. Like she grew up like playing in trees and shit. That she's as sexy as they come. Don't get me wrong, people, when I say a dude, but that was not a normal woman. That was what happened to her? I can't even believe you brought up her name, Brian. Tennille. Holy shit.
I think she's really focused on family now. She went and had a baby. She's
a woman. She's a woman.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But man, holy fuck. That's like Tarzan's wife. Like that was a special.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Justin. That was just too good of a trivia question.
But really, all I was saying was like, it's and that's not a story like pump my fucking. What it is just how you can affect an athlete in the most stressful times, or when something really goes awry, right? It's not according to plan at all. Like, how can you affect them? And that's what I have the most fun with in this. Like, I still love that more than anything else. And I think that goes back to also bringing the people around you to be able to do a lot of the things like in preparation, so that then I'm able to really focus on the stuff that I love to do, which is, that kind of game day preparedness and getting people ready day after day, like in the, during a workout. What can we learn? What can we analyze? How do we get better so that on game day, we're as strong as we can possibly be? And it's fun, man. I don't know. I have a fucking blast. I love it. So cool.
Seven, I don't want to cut you guys off, but I got to go in about 5 minutes.
Okay, then let me ask you this question, Brian. When I think of the greatest victories in the history of the sport, of all the events, not the greatest athlete of sport, I think it can never be a man, because in my mind, that can only happen in an event where the men and women are competing against each other, and it's when a woman does it. And it's just weird that I go there, but it make it forced into such a small, wedge. But that victory that Kari Pierce had, where she beat all the CrossFitters in the world, and the more modalities it is, then usually the greater it is. What event was that? I can't remember the details of it, but I just remember her beating every human being on the planet and being like, holy fuck, that should be like, that's got to be like some title of its fucking own. This is mind boggling. What was that? Are you
talking about Mary?
Atalanta.
Was it Mary? Yeah. Did she end up beating every CrossFitter?
Mary or Atalanta?
Well, both, but I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about either, but just when I just remember hearing that one year, and I remember it had handstand push-ups and all this crazy shit, and I'm like, holy fuck, she smoked everybody.
I feel like it's probably Atalanta, just because of the hugeness of the moment, like the gravity of the moment, because she needed to win it. She needed to get a little bit of help, but she needed to win it to podium. And she just went out like, it was either I'm gonna die or I'm gonna win. It's one of the two.
And she beat all the men and all the women in the world. Yeah. That was at the games.
Yeah. That was at the games in 2020. There were only 10 athletes who did that event, but she beat them all. And in the games in 2019, there were still 30 people on each side doing Mary, and she beat all of them as well. And that workouts are very similar in terms of there's a huge volume of gymnastics.
And she did that twice.
Yep.
It still should not happen.
And I've been a little not critical, but just like I've added the comment that range of motion is a massive factor in Mary. However, Matt Fraser and Noah Olson both have range of motion on their side, and they were racing one another for that event win, and she still outperformed both of them.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah.
And Noah Olson, you have to understand, Noah Olson had not won any events at the games prior to that. That was so important for him. So and he was fending off Matt the whole time, and she beat them both. It is pretty insane.
Yeah.
Isn't it great having Brian around? I can just pull something up that I know nothing about. It's just like, and he can turn it into a good story.
Brian's pretty amazing with the shit. Because I pride myself on numbers and really knowing the history of stuff, and Brian will pull some shit out sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Like,
Yeah.
But it's only thing I can equate it to is you having perfect pitch. It's like I can't explain it. I can't sing a note accurately to save my life. I couldn't tell you I'm an actor from any movie, but for some reason the CrossFit stuff just sticks.
Awesome.
Your jam.
Justin, we will have you on again as we run out of time here. There is one question that everyone who listens to the Sevon podcast needs you to answer, and it comes from Eric Wise. Can Colton Mertens win the games?
Wow.
Careful, he's listening.
Yes, be very careful. But he
And
Ben
end of the show.
Ben Bergeron said he cannot. He cannot win the games. He's 5'4". He's 185 pounds.
I think it's going to be real tough. I think Colton will make the games, and I think Colton is a hell of an athlete. I think it will be very challenging for him to win the games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's not to say he's not a fucking savage, though. I mean, he's a beast.
That's because of his size.
Yeah, I think ultimately there will be events where there's just nothing, there's not. I find it very challenging over a 5-day event now, which apparently it is. A 5-day competition with 15 to 17 events. There are going to be a few in there that are too punishing, I think, at his stature. I think it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. They've announced that already?
Even if you zoom, they just announced that it'll be 5 days instead of 4, which I thought was another positive change in that same email, the same Hopper email. But if you just look at the podium historically, like it's nothing against people who are shorter than this or people who are taller than this. I mean, Fikowski's a little bit of an outlier. Go way back, Spieler and Bridges are outliers. I guess Tommy Hackenbrook would be an outlier, but like there's a couple guys historically that have gotten on the podium being over 6'1" or under 5'8". Fraser is an outlier in that regard, but you basically have to be in that range to be consistently up there. And that's just what the history of the sport says so far.
They still never won, though, right? I mean, they were on the podium, but they still never won, those guys.
That's so crazy on the men's side. I mean, obviously you have Medeiros. Fraser, I think Fraser is an outlier size-wise, but he's an outlier in so many ways.
Yeah.
And then you got Ben Smith, Rich Froning, Graham Holmberg, Miko Saylor, Jason Khalipa, James Fitzgerald, and all of them are 5'10", 195, basically. Yeah. Plus or minus a little bit.
Yeah, Justin will be receiving an email from CrossFit HQ DEI about that comment saying Colton's too smart. I'm sorry, Justin, that I lured you into that.
I'm totally fucked. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, and the final question: are there any surprises, athletes coming to? I heard Fikowski is coming to Underdogs Athletics. Is that
No,
true?
Not true.
No. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
Because I do have a pretty good source. I do have a pretty good source.
We've already got our 6'4" guy. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right. Is there anyone? God. Is there anyone coming that you can't tell us that's courting you or that you are in a a dance with now? Are there athletes
not right now. No, not right now. I think we're gonna roll with who we got right now with Danielle and Bethany and Ricky, obviously. But then we've got with Big Maddie, and we've got a couple of youngins. Alex Gazan is someone you're going to hear about. She's really, really good. Obviously, we got Scuds here now, and Scuds is working her ass off to try to get to that next step. And and then we have some few people that'll fly in and play with us during the year. They'll come and train. And I'm sure we're open to it. I love that stuff, but nobody I would say right now that I've been in discussion with that's going to be coming on board that's going to make big news or anything. I think everyone's kind of set with their coaches right now for the year, and then usually there'll be some shuffling after the year, and then we'll see from there.
Just curious from your perspective. I mean, if you were in the business of recruiting athletes, do you think that after the semifinals, targeting the athletes that maybe just missed it or whatever, that's kind of the sweet spot to try to say, hey, if you guys are looking for something else, come our way?
Yeah, I think that's possible. I don't really do that. I don't really love.
You mean you don't poach? You don't fly an airplane over the Mayhem Empire?
Well, it could be the same, but it could be the same. It could be the same question for athletes. Is that a good time of year?
I think that's a good time. I think it's a very good time. I also think I'm getting more and more interested in as far as like the longevity of looking at the longevity of the sport, looking at, kind of tapping into, a lot of the teenagers and a lot of the younger athletes, who's going to be the next, and
just check out our article from last week.
Oh, dude, I know, it's unbelievable. It's crazy. I mean, it really is incredible, and so I'm very interested in watching that, and then obviously, like, that's something I think as a brand, something that we are really interested in, is grooming the next, big group, which is again why we got in cahoots with the Martins, because they're so knowledgeable about teen athletics. It's such a, I think it's really not an extremely well understood market as far as even programming is concerned. You see a lot of the teen programs, it's essentially just the elite program, a little bit dumbed down, where ours is completely different, and a lot of that's just because of what's necessary anatomically, and so that's another discussion. But yeah, I would say
that was a dig at you, Colton. That was a dig at you, Colton.
Had nothing to do with Colton. But yeah, anyway.
Brian, what article are you talking about, Brian? What article are you talking about?
Oh, I don't know what it is. The Young Guns upcoming this season. Last year, Tommy and Patrick and I collaborated to do one, and we were pretty good. And so this year we did it again.
I don't see it.
Because it's probably not under my byline. It's probably under the Morning Chalk Up, since there were multiple authors.
All right, I tried to give you a handy as we get off here. Justin, we definitely will need to do another show where Brian's not here hijacking the show, talking about athletes and numbers and shit, where we just talk about singing. And
Susan, that's her cue to pull up the comment from an hour ago where it says, "Oh, I'm glad Brian's here to get some back."
Oh God, let me tell you something. You haven't been on in like a month, and every time there's a comment, "Oh, Brian," I just try not to address it. Brian finally ditched Sevon. Thank you. I'm like,
yeah, there's lots of them.
God, people love saying you ditched me. He did ditch me. This is just a one-night stand. Brian just came over here to get a piece.
Oh, you had such a great, attractive guest on today in every way, so I couldn't say no.
Thanks, man.
Just dangled the Justin Cotler stick. Come over to my house. I'm having Cotler on, Brian.
I'll also say this. I also should say this. Like the last 5 times I've committed to a show, you guys have rescheduled the time of it.
Yeah, that's true. You have committed to a couple of them. We had last minute switches. Sorry,
buddy. We ball over here. We switched this from 7 to 7:30. We had Nicky Rodriguez push the fucking young shirtless man push this old Cotler out for 30 minutes.
Brian, somebody said you look like the liver. I'm assuming they mean the liver king. Oh, they're saying you look like the liver prince.
Oh shit!
Oh,
my goodness! Oh my goodness! Do I have something exciting to
Squad
share
zombie?
With you guys?
Yeah,
that's great.
We all got him.
All right, I gotta go, guys.
Yeah,
okay.
So do I.
Justin, Souza, Justin, Mr.
thank
Friend. Thank you guys. Thanks, brothers.
Pleasure, guys.